construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreeen. I'm Shannon Penrod and there is the fabulous and lovely Dr. Doreeen Grant-Pichet. Welcome to everybody and welcome Dr. Grant-Pichet.
Hi,
I'm so thrilled to be here this morning, and that was the first time that we showed that opener, and of course I was cracking up at the pictures of me. But I have to say, the thing that I'm so proud of and a little bit verklempt about is it's just an exciting day here at Autism Live, because the music that you were hearing and a lot of the music that you're going to be hearing on our channel was commissioned and paid for by the artists at Spectrum Laboratories. So that music was composed by a group of individuals on the autism spectrum. How fabulous is that? And they got paid for it. So that's a really cool thing. And I really enjoyed showing that. So, but Dr. Grant-Pichet is here, and Dr. Grant-Pichet is just a fabulous person and a wonderful expert. I believe the preeminent expert in the field of autism in our time. She is here with us for the next hour and is going to be answering your questions in real time. You might be asking, okay, how can I get my question asked on the air? There are lots of different ways. If you're watching us live right now, you're watching us on YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, our homepage, or on Facebook Live. And we encourage you to watch in whatever format that you like. If you're watching live, though, the best way to get your question in is to write it on that platform, and it shows up in real time on our screen. In fact, already we're saying hi to Julia and we're saying hi to We're so, and says, good morning. Dr. Doreeen never ages. And I'm very fond of saying that too. I believe that there's a painting underneath her bed that's aging for her, because it's just amazing. We all want to know what kind of cream you use, Dr. Grant. And but go ahead, write your questions in right now, and we're able to see them. I just saw the question you put in, Julia. We're going to get to that in just a minute. I want to say, though, that if you aren't watching us live, you might be watching us recorded at another time. We podcast to all different kinds of platforms. We're on iTunes as a free download, and you can watch or listen, whichever you prefer. We're also on Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Ghana, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Audible, Deezer, and many others. We just can't, Traven's running out of space to squeeze them on here. So let us know. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Heather. So thrilled that you guys are all here with us this morning. Let us know if there's some place that you would like for us to be. We like to be available in all the places that you watch your podcast or listen to your podcast. So I also want to say that at any time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can go to our homepage, which is autism-live.com. Check us out there. You can search our videos. You can also leave us a message there. In fact, the first question I'm going to go to is one that came in the night on our chat on autism-live.com. But Dr. Grant-Pichet, I've had you sit there and you've only gotten to say good morning. Is there anything you want to say before I launch into this first question?
No, not at all. Good morning, everyone. It's always lovely to be here, and I look forward to getting some questions from everyone.
Yes, it's wonderful. Okay, so this first question. Hello, my son is 13 with ASD and has very rigid interests. Mm-hmm. Basically, excuse me, playing games on the iPad. I beg your pardon. Playing games on the iPad, watching videos, and taking photos of objects in the house. Now I'm going to have a tickle. I'm so sorry, you guys. Pardon me.
No problem.
I want to start cutting down on his iPad time. But then what does he do? He says no to all my suggestions for hobbies. He goes online, he does online school, and doesn't leave the house much at all. He seems totally fine with not doing much at all. How do I reduce screen time and motivate him to try new activities when screen time is all he likes to do? And they
Okay.
said, thank you for your suggestions. I'm going to mute and cough and let you go for it.
Sure, sure. So I think you mentioned that he is 13, and this is kind of when it gets a little bit difficult because this is sort of the reason why it's easy to do things, much easier, let's say, to do things when the children are very young, because once a behavior pattern kind of becomes a habit, it becomes difficult to break. But nevertheless, if you look at what he's doing, makes perfect sense, right? Because those are his reinforcers. Those are the things that he enjoys doing: videos, iPad games, photos, those are things that he likes to do, and he's engaging in things that he likes to do. Because there's no real sense of, oh, I need to do some other things that I might not like to do as much. And so in that world of, like, think about it, for all of us, if we didn't have other responsibilities, we each would basically engage in just the things we like to do, the reinforcers, right? It's logical, it makes sense. So now what you have to do is kind of a difficult task, because you need to establish with him that there are some things that are, let's say, we can call them whatever. They're, chores, tasks that have to be done during every day, educational activities maybe, or tasks around the house, or social tasks. I mean, whatever it is, to him, it is not as rewarding as playing iPad games and videos and photos, right? So we need to be clear on that. So now you have this activity that you want him to do, whatever it is, whether it's going out, let's say, or talking to other people, putting down the technology. Let's say it's just, think of one activity that you would like to increase, and then you're going to use his preferred activities as reinforcers. And so the way that it works is that you will ask him, and depending on his level of functioning, you might want to have a conversation with him to kind of explain that these are things that you need to get done during the day, and we're going to do them very slowly. Like, we're going to build up to doing this entire list, just like school or something. It builds up. So essentially what you'll do is you'll have him do, let's say, 5 minutes of a non-preferred activity, something you want him to do, and then you'll allow him to have 30 minutes of his preferred activity, which would be the iPad or the game. And so you do that for a while, and you make sure that he's not objecting to it and he's okay with it. It becomes a habit, like maybe a week, right? The next week, you turn that 5 minutes of non-preferred activity to 10 minutes, and you maintain the 30 minutes of the preferred activity. And so you go on this way until it gets to a point where he begins to have an intermittent schedule where there are just as many non-preferred activities as there are preferred activities. Or the other way that you could do it is that you gradually have now increased, let's say, a block of time where it's like, oh, he's supposed to do 1 whole hour of something that he doesn't really like to do, and then he'll get a whole hour of something he does like to do. The key to this, I mean, you'll have to balance it so that it's fair. I always tell parents that, our kids, when they first start doing ABA, they are basically used to doing all the things they want to do, and demands have not been placed at the same level as demands are placed on typically developing kids. So what has to happen is that you'll do a gradual transition for them. In the beginning, you will have very few requests or demands, like things that you want them to do, non-preferred activities, and a lot of reinforcers. And then over time, gradually, in a way that they don't really object, in a way that it becomes a habit or a pattern or just a routine, gradually, you'll increase those requests or demands, and you'll decrease the reinforcers to become more like what we experience in regular life, right? If you think about it, when we're kids, we have a lot of reinforcers. All we do all day long is play, right? And then we have to go to school. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to go to school, but there's a lot of play as well in school because my friends are there. And then I'll come home and I'll do a little bit of homework and then I'll get to play again. But as we grow up, it becomes a lot more like, right? Like, organize your room. Now you actually have proper homework to do, and it takes hours, and you might not even have time to play anymore. And as you grow up, you realize that those things that were reinforcers get less and less and less and less, right? If we're lucky and if we are, in an environment that allows it, we will maintain some self-reinforcing activities. Like I find, Shannon, that men are a lot better at maintaining fun activities than women are. And, so men will generally continue to do sports, maybe watch sports and so on. We as women might watch TV, cook, we have hobbies, right? And all of those things become rewards. And we then do all this hard stuff. We go to work, we take care of others, we do this, that, and the other thing. Then we reward ourselves with a small amount of reinforcer. That's what you need to gradually accomplish for your son, which is essentially changing his routine. Now, there's a lot of ways also you can use visual schedules. There's a lot of things like that you could do, but the idea is that you basically will now increase his demand or his tasks very gradually and still make sure he has access to rewards. Long answer.
But really important, and thank you so much for it, because I love how you take into consideration that, well, we would all want to do that. I just always appreciate your viewpoint on that. I want to say, because I didn't mention before that I'm the very proud mom of a 17-year-old that was diagnosed at the age of 2.5. And, like all young men in this age range, he loves his video games and his screen time. It's so different in COVID. Because, so that was their big reinforcer for screen time. And now we're having to meter that reinforcer so much more because they're having to do all the things they don't like on screen time. But I just really appreciate that this mom is trying to figure it out and trying to find more ways to get him to do something else. And I just want to throw in there that a lot of times, I think all kids on the spectrum, not on the spectrum, but especially our kids, they don't know that they whether they like something until they've tried it. And sometimes they have to try it more than once. And it's very hard for me as a parent, but I learn every day about patience, that when I want to introduce him to something that he's never done before, I get pushback. And I'm trying to learn and adjust myself. Somebody said the other day about how they're learning, instead of pushing, to ride the wave. And that I'm trying to ride the wave when I'm asking him to do something, and know that he's going to give me pushback, and that's not necessarily indicative of where we're going to end up. But that I've pulled him away from something that he really wants to do, and we're going to, we're going to go for a walk, or we're going to do some new activity, and he's going to tell me he doesn't want to do it. And I don't have to get all hysterical about that, because I want to do that. I can just go, I hear you, but we're still going to try it. And if you never want to do it again, we don't ever have to do it again, but we're going to try this thing. And I find that when I stay calm and don't get like, but you need to get off of the screen time, and don't go through all those explanations, that a lot of times not every time, but a lot of times he ends up liking the activity. So I just want to throw that out, because I know that this parent is going to try some new things, and your child may be like, I don't want to do this, or they don't say that, they'll just be crabby, and that doesn't feel good for us. We're putting out all this effort to do the thing with them, and then they're crabby on top of it, and we go, why do I even bother? But
Yeah.
instead, if we ride the wave and go, yep, as expected, Mr. Krabby Pants showed up. But I know from the past that sometimes we get through this and he ends up liking the activity. But so sending you hugs, because that's hard, but I applaud this parent that it's hard during COVID. We have to try to reduce the screen time whenever possible, even when it's their rewarding thing. So sending them love. Okay, we've got a parent who has written in and wants to know about how can I stop night terrors and teeth grinding?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Um, this is a really tough one. I mean, I don't think anyone has really discovered yet how to stop either one of those. Teeth grinding, unfortunately, there's no solution to it except for you should make sure that you get a brace, or I don't know what they're called, Shannon. The things that,
A mouth guard.
a mouth guard, right?
Yeah.
I can tell you that one of my kids' teeth grinds, and she's gone through 5 mouth guards, I think, because they break. But basically, that's just a habit, and it's something no one knows what causes it. There are some theories that it has to do with stress. I don't know if that's the case or not, but so let's just make sure while he's teeth grinding, the teeth don't get destroyed. In terms of night terrors, though, you can contact, UCLA has a sleep clinic where they try to find out if there is something else that's instigating the night terror. See, sometimes with our kids, it's not really a night terror in the sense that they're not suddenly woken by some scary thought, but they're woken by some physical thing that occurs, like a subclinical seizure or some activity, and then they're afraid of what just woke them up. So it would be probably pretty important for you to get a sleep EEG, which they do at UCLA Sleep Clinic, and what you do, they basically he would sleep there. I mean, you can stay there. It's a little bit tough, but they would be monitoring him during sleep. And I think they might actually also now, even, I'm not sure during COVID now, but I think they had gotten to the point where they would allow you to have the entire EEG electrodes at home. And so therefore he could sleep at home, but it's very difficult, and they'd want to make sure that they would want to monitor him throughout one night of sleep, sometimes even more than one night, to see what's going on. And I think I know it sounds super difficult. I wouldn't even know how to begin to do that right now if it was one of my kids, but talk to the UCLA Sleep Clinic, because sleep issues are very, very important. I talk to parents about sleep all the time. And if you're not getting good sleep, like, the day is lost. Like, you can't learn, you can't pay attention, you're going to have a lot more frustration, a lot more aggression, all that sort of stuff. So it's important we figure out what's going on.
The caregiver just gave us some more information that this is a female child and that she holds her tummy.
Oh, okay. So that, is such a common thing with our parents, unfortunately. And I don't know if it's, honestly, we did a publication. There were several publications that were done which showed that there is a higher level of gastrointestinal distress and discomfort and inflammation in individuals with autism. Now, I don't know if it's just a higher number, or if it's because one way or another we end up discovering that, and our typically developing kids just kind of tolerate it, or they figure out what not to eat. I'm not sure, but regardless, I want you to know that it is a big deal in our field, in our world. A lot of kids have inflammation in the gut, and you should definitely, if she's holding her tummy, first of all, immediately, if she's holding her tummy, give her a heating pad, because that will relieve some of the pain, perhaps. Let's see. Secondly, please see a gastroenterologist and figure out what is going on. I cannot tell you the number of children I've seen who have such severe inflammation that it is affecting everything. They have pain during the day, There are several children I have who have severe constipation, severe diarrhea. Some of the body rocking that we see our kids do is due to that pain. I mean, it is a very, very pervasive issue in autism. So definitely seek out medical help for this. If they would do a series of tests to identify what is going on and then hopefully give you treatment.
Okay, and they also, I don't know if you can see the medicine that they wrote in and
I
said
don't
that
know,
they're
I
on.
don't know what that is. I wonder if that's something homeopathic. Perhaps the parent can tell us what that is.
Okay. I'm going to move on to another question here that they're wanting to know. Hi, my 16-year-old is high functioning autism and is so isolated right now, no social contact with peers due to online schooling, that he is struggling with relationships and his sexual identity. He claims he is bisexual, but we believe he feels this way because he is desperately seeking love and acceptance from anywhere. He told me this morning that being bisexual doubles his chance at love. He hasn't been alone with any peers for over a year. Would it benefit for him to see a therapist who specializes in this area, and how do we proceed? There's been a lot of studies that have come out recently that have talked about sexual identity in individuals who are on the autism spectrum is often more fluid, and that there is a higher percentage of individuals in the gay community who are on the autism spectrum than is found in other communities. So just throwing that out there. But Dr. Grampiche, what would you like to say to this parent?
That's so interesting, Shannon. I mean, because so I'll just share some thoughts about it because, I don't know very much about the area of sexuality and autism, but it does make sense that there would be a higher number. There's you know, early studies, and this was actually one of the studies that I did for my master's 100 years ago. Um, Very early studies, people were looking at gender discrimination by individuals with autism. I was looking at a concept called over selectivity, which is a little different than gender discrimination, but over selectivity has to do with looking at a stimulus or an object or anything and not recognizing it because you're paying attention to one particular aspect of that stimulus. So, for instance, my study was that I would have parents of the children, and the children obviously could identify the pictures of the parents, or we taught them to. And then we would alter the picture in one way or another. Let's say take off glasses or put on a different color hair, that kind of stuff. And then the children would ultimately lose the ability to identify their parent based on that small alteration in the picture, right? So so if it was a typically developing child, you learn the face of the parent based on the face and not necessarily based on the things around it. So if the mother changes their hair color, you still recognize that as being mother. But in children with autism, it was called over selectivity because they were selecting the knowledge that this is mom based on, let's say, hair color, or based on some aspect of it, like glasses, or if you change the mouth, or some small portion of it where it still remained identifiable to others. So, those are things that take place with kids with autism. Having said that, I'm not answering the actual question. So it would, when you look at gender, male and female, how do we know someone is male or female? You look at by just looking at them, right? So how do we differentiate that? And somehow we do. Believe me, there are so many studies where they're trying to identify if someone is male or female, and we don't know. It's one of those intrinsic things. It's not obviously it's not short hair and et cetera, but somehow we do identify that. And as the world has changed, it is less and less likely that we will continue to identify gender based on facial expression or face or external. Now, when it comes to individuals on the autism spectrum, as we know, they are very non-judgmental individuals, right? Even the highest functioning people. I always like to say that my highest functioning or recovered individuals are just the loveliest people because they don't learn all the kind of bad stuff we learn, like the envy and judgment and all that kind of stuff. So it is possible that your child might not differentiate between male, female. It might not have any kind of, it might not hold any meaning to him. I don't know. That's absolutely possible. But I think until he figures that out, this is so tough. I want to start by saying it's not just tough for kids on the spectrum. It's just a tough period of time for everyone. A lot of kids, a lot of teenagers are not sure about their own sexuality right now. There's a lot of reasons for it, but there's a lot of confusion about that. Now, yes, of course, it would be great if you could find a therapist who specializes in this and talk to them. I don't know anyone myself who understands ASD and sexuality. But what I do think you need to do somehow right now is to get him involved in some sort of online, even social group. And there are a lot of online social groups. Have we in the past given out some links for that, Shannon? And I think you know some of them that we can mention here.
Yeah, I'm especially a big fan. In fact, tomorrow we're going to be replaying an interview that we've done with Chelsea Darnell. She's an amazing young woman, an adult woman on the autism identifies herself as being on the autism spectrum, and she runs a really wonderful social group. It's called Movie Chat with Chelsea Darnell. It's through the Ed Asner Family Center. It is usually for adults 18 and up, but I think they make special exceptions sometimes for a 16 or 17-year-old. And basically, there's a movie that's assigned at the beginning of the week, and they encourage the people who are going to be on. You have to register for it, but it's totally free. They encourage you to watch the movie, and then the discussion always starts out talking about the movie, but it's an adults on the autism spectrum social group. And the Ed Asner Family Center also has a couple of other social groups, and they have classes and things like that where you can do it online. You can be anywhere in the world and be online. You just have to go to Ed Asner Family Center, and they'll tell you how to register for them. The online classes are totally free. But I have to say, I think that that's the more important aspect is first of all, getting him some social interaction with folks. And I, of course, have so many friends who tell the story of when I don't know whether this individual is bisexual or not. How could I possibly know? But I just want to send love to this caregiver and say that I have so many friends on the spectrum and not on the spectrum that tell the story of when they were trying to come to terms with who they were, and all they wanted was acceptance and love from the people around them. And that I think if we could fast forward 5 years into the future, and when all of that is settled, and what your child's sexuality is, and they know what their sexuality is, that where you're going to want to be is in love and acceptance of who they are. And if as much as you can apply at 16, I would think would be the most helpful thing for your child. But I understand that's not the question you were asking. So back to you, Dr. Gramsci.
No, I mean, I just want to say, it would be interesting for me to hear the point of view of some of the parents here. Have you guys seen Love on the Spectrum? I recently was watching this series, and it touched me so deeply because it reminded me of how lonely some of our adults and teens, same thing, are, emotionally. They crave love and relationship and bonding, just like we do, and intimacy and so on. And it's very, very difficult. And it just, I after I saw it, I came to Shannon and I was like, oh my God, I so want to start some sort of like dating thing, or just even like social thing where I can find adults that are similar in interest and functioning level, and kind of bring them together somehow. Because I think unless we do so. I don't think anything like that really exists, to be honest with you. I know that the program at UCLA Peers has some boot camps, but they don't, I'm thinking more kind of like a dating app, not necessarily a dating app itself, but like, tell me about your interests and let me try to find someone who is compatible for you. And at this point, you can online chat. Because I honestly think that our kids need some help with this. They're really.
So you're talking about an ASD Yenta? Like
Yeah,
a Yenta
that's
that
exactly it.
Like, that makes me so excited.
Can we call it that? Can we call it yenta.com?
ASDyenta.com. I love it. And I also love what this parent wrote in, and they said, thank you. That's tremendously helpful. We love him no matter what he identifies as. And I think that's the whole ball game right there. But getting more social during COVID. So ASD Yenta, I'm and they're saying it's a really good idea. All right, we gotta get that domain purchased today. So wonderful. All right, let's now I'm all excited. I'm all at Twitter. Let's go back to some questions here. Hi, Dr. Doreeen. Can you share some ideas on how to increase language, commenting, etc. during peer play? One of my kiddos is very silent during peer activity, and that makes him less popular. Thank you, Heather, for writing in that question.
That's a great question. So I'll try not to go in a million circles on this, but I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is there's prerequisites that need to be in place so that peer play is successful. A lot of times we think that if we give our child a series of rote responses or rote instructions, that they'll be able to handle peer play adequately. But peer play actually depends on a lot of other skills. So I think your best bet is to honestly, I would recommend that you check out the site Skills for Autism, www.skillsforautism.com. And there, that's CARD's curriculum. That's the curriculum that I built for over many years. Now, in there, there's a section for that's called social. There's a curriculum area called social. So there's 8 different domains, and there's language and adaptive and executive functions and so on. And I think you begin with social. And oddly, or maybe it's under language, or maybe it's under both areas of the curriculum, but you're looking for social conversation. There's lessons that are called social conversation, because social conversation is a very difficult thing. It's not just language. It is, the individual has to learn. I'll give you some examples of these other skills that I'm talking about. They have to be able to kind of learn things like, how do I respond when there's one child playing with me or one other person versus a group? Because group dialogue is extremely different than individual dialogue. Second is they have to learn, like, what do I do how do I read other people's body language and facial expressions? Because that is, in social conversation and in play, that is how we identify if we are doing something wrong, if we're being boring, if we're off topic. It's by reading other people's expressions. How do I do that? And how do I repair it if I notice that people are walking away, if I'm losing people in the play setting, if they're preferring to play with each other as opposed to me? What are my ways to repair that? What are some conversational skills that help me introduce and get into the social setting, as opposed to maintain when I'm in there, as opposed to repair when people are leaving? There's a lot to learn there. So I really recommend that you go into skills, because it would kind of be a disservice if I was just to say, well, observe his play and give him some rote sentences. You can do that, but it won't always be appropriate. And if you want him to learn actually the formula, kind of how to socialize in peer settings, then you need to teach all these other types of skills. If he's a younger child, you're looking at things like sharing, turn taking. I mean, there's so many different things that come in before you can focus on getting appropriate conversation into peer play.
And of course, this is a great time for me to read what the free offerings are from Skills and IBT this week. And you're not going to believe it's like they've got a Vulcan mind meld with you. And we didn't know that this was until I opened this just now.
Okay.
So each week, Skills and IBT, the Institute for Behavioral Training, offer free things and they send me an email. This week, for our ABA parents and guardians, they are offering a free IBT parent e-learning course. And the topic this week that's free is Parent Tackling Autism as a Family, which I think is going to be super helpful for a lot of you. I'm going to read the whole list and then I'm going to give you the way that you get these free offerings. So for parents, it's Tackling Autism as a Family. And keep in mind, you can, anyone can see any of these. So for the educator community, though, they're offering the free IBT educator e-learning module. Are you ready for this? Educator, the social environment. How awesome is that? And that's available. That's available to educators at no charge, but you know, parents are always educators. So you might want to check that out. They're continuing to offer their RBT 2.0 training course. That's free for parents on a case-by-case basis. You'll have to reach out and ask specifically for it. That's over a $400 value. And they're giving that for free on a case-by-case basis. Get your pencil ready for the phone number. In addition, they will continue to offer 10% discount on all Skills products for anyone that refers to us and says that they watch Autism Live, or you say, Shannon sent me and I want the Friends and Family program. That's my little joke, but they appreciate it. So here's the phone number for all of that, 877-975-4559. Again, that's 877-975-4559. If you are watching internationally, as I know so many of you do, you can send the email directly to me at s.penrod@autism-live.com, and I will forward it to the appropriate people over at Skills and IBT. But how great is that this week it's actually about something social in the classroom, which I love.
Amazing. I think that we had the same thing happen last week. They gave us something that was right on topic. Amazing.
Yeah, right on topic. Vulcan mind meld. It's so good. I want you to know that we asked the question of the parent about the medicine that she said, and we didn't know what that was. And they said it's a tablet form of melatonin.
Right.
So,
I mean, melatonin is good for helping one fall asleep. It's not so good for maintaining sleep. It generally wakes people up about after 4 hours or so. But that aside, you really should figure out the underlying issue, which seems to be something with her tummy. And I can't stress how important that is.
Okay. I have another question that came in the night. What tips do you have to give a neurodiverse couple really struggling with this pandemic? My husband has autism and isn't coping well with this pandemic. He is constantly irritable and we fight constantly.
Yeah. My friend, if I could answer that question, if I had a dime for every time, no. There are, I mean, you know, I'll be honest, this pandemic is going on too long. There are so many people that have done their very best to keep it together since March, and things are falling apart now because nobody expected it to be going on this long. I mean, you know, we are human beings are social beings, and there's no question that if you keep us in hibernation for a year, everybody's going to start falling apart. That's just the nature of who we are. So it is very, very difficult. I guess I don't know anything at all about your husband. I would recommend that it might be helpful for the two of you to talk to a marriage family counselor and who can help give you some guidance on, you know, if it was me, I would be asking your husband to kind of break it down in terms of what are the things that are disturbing him about the pandemic, and then to help rationalize them in some way, and then to help give some objective end to this whole thing. Because I think what we all, those of us who can handle it, I guess, or who are tolerating the pandemic, are holding on to the hope that things will get better. Even though every time you turn on the news, things are getting worse, we all still hold on to the hope that they will get better. And I think, you know, that has to be part of the solution for him, that he has some motivation or hope for the future. We do happen to have a very, very good licensed marriage family counselor who knows all about autism, and his name is Vince Redmond. And Shannon, if you email Shannon directly, I'm sure Shannon can connect you. Vince has been with me at CARD for over, I would say, almost, what is it, 25 years or so. So he is extremely experienced in behavior analysis and ABA, and he knows a lot about autism, and he is an LMFT.
Somebody just wrote in and said that there is an app for those with ASD to make friends, called with others. You can make friends with people around the world. It's called Making Authentic Friendships, or MAF, MAF, excuse me. It was featured on the Today Show in March 2020. It's to help people with special needs to connect. So what a wonderful resource for people to check out and see if they can. I don't know it, so I have no idea, but check it out and see what it is, and see if that's something that will help you. I still like the idea of a someone who's a matchmaker for people on the with ASD. I'm still loving this. I think I said Yeti, but I think it's Yenta.
Yenta, you said Yenta.
Oh, I said Yenta. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And they want to know, Shannon, does the educator e-learning provide CEUs? I know that you can get CEUs on IBT, but I don't know if that particular one provides CEUs. But if you call that number, they will tell you.
And I have to
say, they can get CEUs. Yeah.
I don't think, I'm not sure if it has happened recently, but up to the point when I was running everything, including IBT, we were trying to get on the teachers commission. You have to be a provider of continuing education for teachers. I don't know if we ever accomplished that, but please do feel free to call IBT, Institute for Behavioral Training, ibehavioraltraining.com, and ask them.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so we have this question, and I'm not even sure that I understand the question. And I'm not sure that if this is outside your experience, Dr. Grant-Pichet, but William would like to know, can people with ASD recognize radio signal patterns that a neurotypical person could not? For example, an example would be fast radio bursts that the SETI Institute are studying. And I looked up the SETI Institute, that is the Search for Extraterrestrial Institute. So I don't know anything about that, and I don't know if you do either.
I do not know anything about that at all. I do know that there are select, excuse me, individuals on the autism spectrum who have exceptional pattern recognition skills. I do know that. So I have known and treated a couple of those individuals, and their pattern recognition skills are beyond anything we can measure even. So pattern recognition, for those who don't know what that is, for instance, if I tell you to complete the pattern and I say 2, 4, 6, you'll know that it continues into 8, 10, 12, so on, right? And that's a pattern. And so you, based on the first few things that I tell you, you recognize a pattern and then you can extrapolate. And so that's a very simple example of it, but pattern recognition then becomes very complicated, and it goes into machine learning and things that are happening to you and I every day, for instance, which is if you know, look up on Google for a piece of furniture, from there on, you will continue to receive things that are similar to that in your feed because they've recognized that you have a pattern. You generally look at these things. So one of my prior children or clients actually does pattern recognition now for the government and looks at anti-terrorism types of patterns. So I know that there are individuals who have excellent skills in that area. I don't know anything about the work that's being done in SETI, and I actually think if you asked me, I would say it's very few people, very few people. This is one of those really extreme skills. So it's not a common thing with autism.
Okay. Now we've had a lot of questions come in lately, and they're in two different categories. One where there are parents who they really don't like the label of autism. They feel like maybe their child is just behind on some skills, and they really don't, they're loath to take them to a specialist and get the diagnosis because they feel that if they get that diagnosis, it's for life and that there's no moving past it. And on the flip side of it, Dr. Grampiche, we have a bunch of adults who are, for the first time in their lives, hearing about autism, and they're hearing about it in some very mainstream ways. I know you and I've had conversations about, I love me some Amy Schumer, and watching her go through the process with her husband, of her husband getting diagnosed, and how warm and luscious and fabulous Amy Schumer has made that for so many people, has caused a lot of people to start to look at it and start to say, look, I think that's me because I have trouble with this and I have trouble with this. Sometimes going to the extreme of self-diagnosing themselves and saying to the public, yes, I've decided that I am on the autism spectrum. So we've got adults who are, for the first time ever, Amy Schumer kind of like overshot the bow and made it so cool that people are wanting to get the diagnosis. And then we've got the parents of kids who need help who are saying, I don't want the diagnosis. And I was wondering if you could help us a little bit to figure out where we might want to be on these two subjects.
Yeah, that's an amazing conversation to have. So, you know, I've traditionally, Shannon, I've always said to parents, because I have, unfortunately, for the past 30 years or so, also been a diagnostician, right? So one of my jobs is still that I diagnose. And I often now am kind of the second or third opinion. So it's sort of like people will come to me when they're confused about this issue. And I can tell you that, so there's a lot of, you know, diagnosing someone is not a fun activity, obviously, because it's a very painful experience for most parents. It evokes a lot of fear and confusion and apprehension about the future. And I always tell parents who find it very difficult that this is not by any means something to be afraid of. It's just it's a name that helps you in a number of different ways. It helps you gain services that are appropriate. After all, if I was to diagnose the child with something completely different, like or similar even, like what if I said the child has, you know, obsessive compulsive disorder, social anxiety disorder, and you know, I don't know, some other small thing, and the treatments that you would seek out would be different. You'd go after, you know, maybe psychotherapy or cognitive behavioral therapy or whatever. You would not be seeking out ABA, which is super effective when you're on the spectrum. So I would say that it is a useful label in the sense that it allows you to gain access, or it directs you to the right treatment, right? If someone says, oh, I have a headache, and you now have a name for it, you know that the treatment is, well, take Tylenol or Advil or something, right? You know the treatment. So that's a useful thing, because not having a name, you're kind of confused what you have to do next. The other thing is having that name or label allows you to access funding. And so that's a very big deal. So it's important to have that label in order to access funding. So those are the positives about having that label. When you have the label, in order to prevent the fear or reduce the fear of the future, what I suggest is now you've used the label, you've gotten your funding, and you know you're supposed to get ABA. Now put it aside. Don't even fuss on it, or remember. Don't let it overwhelm your life. Let's just look at symptoms. Okay, let's look at what are the issues. And as I presented before, a lot of times, all you want to do is you want to look at your child and establish through assessments what are the strengths and what are the areas of weakness. And when I say weakness, they're not even weakness, it's areas that are different than the norm. Because truthfully, you want to help your child reach the norm as much as possible so that they can fit into society, benefit from society in the same way as others do, right? So what are the things my child is super good at, and what are the things that they're not so good at? Just like we do with our typically developing kids who have, let's say, problems with math. You don't just ignore it and say, well, my child's going to want to have problems with math forever and good for him. You get a tutor, right? And that's what ABA is. It's like, let's find a tutor for the child who can help him catch up with language, peer play, social aspects of life. Maybe this tutor can also help my child not tantrum or be aggressive when they and use their words instead. That's what ABA does. So you just look at the symptoms, you identify those behaviors that need to change and work towards it, and you'll see great improvement. So that's kind of for the folks who don't want the diagnosis. That's how I feel like you should really move past that obstacle, because there's a journey ahead, and until you move past that obstacle, you're holding your child back. Okay, so that's that. For those who nowadays want to have the diagnosis, well, some people, honestly, Shannon, sometimes I get parents who come to me and actually do qualify. And it is an aha moment for them. And it is important for us to acknowledge that they've gone through life with this. This is like so many children who have dyslexia, and it takes years and years before we figure out, oh my God, this child has dyslexia. That's why they're having a hard time academically. Same thing with some of the folks who come and actually do, in one way or another, have very high functioning autism, which used to be called Asperger's. And basically they have somehow managed their way through life. It is helpful for them to get the diagnosis and to find the right treatments, which, if you are extremely high functioning and have managed through life so far as an adult, then you probably are very high functioning. And then you should actually access something like cognitive behavior therapy, which would be helpful for you. But then there's a smaller group, I guess, or I don't know, but we're getting more and more of this, of individuals who actually think it's cool to have, it's trendy to have ASD, and or they would like to have accommodations made for them based on this. And I just become super defensive towards, personally, having tried to support so many parents along this journey, which is not an easy journey. I just find it a little bit offensive for people to try to use the diagnosis to make life easier for themselves, when really it's not an easy thing. It's not something to be, you can't just jump in and say, hey, I want the same accommodations. Truly, there are individuals who it's hard for them and they deserve those accommodations, but not for everyone. So,
I appreciate that so much. I think that that's a really important topic of discussion. I know I got into it with a friend the other day because they had seen an article. These things pop up from time to time. They had seen an article saying that, and it was supposedly written from the perspective of two young people. I find it very hard to believe that they use this phrase, but supposedly the young people said that once upon a time they had a diagnosis and that then they grew out of it, was the phrase that they used.
Okay.
And I was like, I was covered in hives the minute that somebody said this. I said, okay, let's be clear here that autism is not something you grow out of. There are people who get to the point where they no longer qualify for a diagnosis, but nobody does that through the process of growing in their sleep. And I, as a parent of a person who was diagnosed at 2.5, and I watched them and an army of people work their tuchuses off for years. I got defensive and I was like, outgrew it? You mean worked really hard?
Yeah.
And they were like, I'm just using their words because I was a little bit fatutzed. But we've only got 4 minutes left. But have you ever seen somebody outgrow autism? Am I crazy?
No. In fact, I think in some cases, as the child ages, things get a little bit better. In most cases, things get worse if you don't do any kind of intervention. What I do want to say, though, is there are, unfortunately now, because there's such a huge need for doctors who can diagnose, there are a lot of folks diagnosing incorrectly right now as well, which is very, very concerning to me because, what do? You have to believe the doctor that you just saw. And if someone tells you, yes, you have a diagnosis, and you really don't, I can't even tell you the repercussions. Just here's one just thing that immediately went through my mind the other day. As you know, Shannon, someone had been diagnosed who I know does not have autism. I had diagnosed them the opposite way. But bottom line is that, the more and more people, if more and more people claim to have this diagnosis and actually receive this diagnosis, it is going to affect the payer world. Payers, insurance companies already are having a very hard time with the number of people who are diagnosed, with the amount of treatment they have to pay for. So now if we even increase that, believe me, the pushback from payers for those individuals who really need the therapy will also increase because they're paying even more for folks who don't necessarily need the therapy.
Right. Well, we're just about out of time. I do want to say that somebody just wrote in and said that's what my son's doctor said for the first diagnosis about outgrowing autism. And we have to say happy birthday to her. Kirsten is watching and it's her birthday and we're sending you big happy birthday love. Okay. I want to thank Dr. Grampiche for being here and for answering all of your questions. I know I learned a lot and I'm so grateful to her and to all of you for being here and watching with us. I also want to remind everybody that on tomorrow's show, we're going to be replaying an episode with Chelsea Darnell, and she's going to be talking about that movie chat social group, which I just think is amazing. And one of the things I love about it the most, it's free. And doesn't matter where you are, it's online. And that all is happening through the Ed Asner Family Center. But Chelsea, we did an interview with her earlier while we were in COVID. And so we're going to replay that tomorrow. And then on Friday, Nancy Allspaw-Jackson is here with me for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And our special guest is going to be Kristyn Roth from the Autism Society of America. They're going to be talking about what Autism Society of America is doing about COVID. And I know that that's going to be a big discussion because I think everybody, as you said, Dr. Grampiche, everybody's sort of at the end of their rope and we need to make knots because we're not all the way through. We need to be hanging on to each other and being ingenious. I tell you, one of the things about when things get rough is that people find something to do. And that I know that all the brilliant minds are working on how do we all socially get together and hang on to each other as we get through this. And the autism community is no different. There are people like at the Ed Asner Center doing this movie chat and other classes online. There's all kinds of things. And we've got some things that we've got coming up as well to help us to get through the holidays. So Dr. Grampiche, we love and adore you. And thank you so much for taking the time to do all the things that you do, and especially for being here with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone.
We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. Muted. Sorry, muted. Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I am Shannon Penrod and I'm so thrilled to be here. We're coming to you live from my house and live from several other people's houses this morning. So, but it's Thursday and we're all still here, and that is a miraculous thing. I saw the most interesting thing posted the other day that said, you know, everybody needs to stop saying we're all in this together. We're all in the same storm together, but we're not all in the same boat together. And they went on to talk about, you know, how circumstances can be vastly different for different people. And I thought, boy, I really think that that says it all. While we might be in it together, we are not all in the same boat. Some people have bigger challenges than others. And I know some of you have bigger challenges than others, but I'm thrilled and excited to be here with you. And my mission is to give you some information and inspiration today that hopefully will make your boat ride a little smoother, or at least a little bit more powerful, so that you remember why it is that you're in the boat that you're in, and who you're in with it, right? Because we're sending you big old hugs. You know, I always like to say here on the show, si se puede, and we hold virtual hands and we get through this together, right? Thrilled that you guys are here. And by the way, when I say you guys, I hope that you guys know I'm speaking to the larger autism community. So that starts, first of all, with the core of individuals who are on the autism spectrum, right? Couldn't be doing a show without inviting those folks to have a voice here. That would be crazy, right? Not what we would want to do here. But what we also do here is that we welcome everybody who loves those individuals, everybody who cares about them, everyone who's fighting for them to get the rights and the employment and the housing and the dignity that they so richly deserve. So that's when I talk about the larger autism community. And I count myself as part of that because I am a mom of an individual who was diagnosed with autism when he was just 2.5. And so I want to create a world in which he has the voice that he should have. And obviously the voice looks different on a whole bunch of different people, right? It isn't just vocal speech. We've learned that a long time ago, but everyone has a say. Everyone has a seat at the table, as my good friend Joanne Lara likes to say. Everybody gets a seat at the table. So that's what we're doing here. We want to remind you that we're live for this next hour and that you guys can be writing in, and you already are, in the myriads of different ways that we are available. We're live right now on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Periscope. We will then later on podcast this show to iTunes. It will be on iHeartRadio, it's on Deezer, and it's on Spotify. But we're always 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on autism-live.com. That's our homepage. There's a lot to do on that page, so we want you to check out whatever works for you. Everything is not going to be of interest to you on that page. Look, there's all the different ways that you can connect with us. But for instance, at the top of the page, there's lots of different things that you can search. You can go through our almost 9 years of videos, a library of videos with experts and parents and individuals on the spectrum, self-advocates, that you can go through and perhaps find something even in the wee hours of the night when you're feeling like you're completely alone, to be reminded you are not alone. There's a whole lot of people in the same storm with you, right? Different boats, same storm. And they care about you. And that's the other thing that I think is really important to know. So, but also there is a chat at the bottom of our homepage, autism-live.com. It's free, it's anonymous. So, you know, you can write into us on Facebook Live, absolutely, and we will respond to you. But if you want to be a little bit more anonymous, as we said yesterday, if you don't want to be putting your business on the streets, love that expression. You can write into us anonymously on the chat that is on autism-live.com. And we hope that you'll check out the myriads of different things that are available to you on that site. It's all free. It's very important that we, our mission, as I said, is to give you information, inspiration, and to do it in formats that are free so that you can access it anytime or day or night. If you've got the internet, then there's a way for you to connect with us and hopefully to get some of the answers to some of the questions, or at least information that will lead you to the right question. because sometimes the right question is what it's all about, right? I do like to start the show off by saying we have lots of experts that are here on the show with us, and I love to give you that kind of information. Please don't confuse me with one of the experts. I've already told you I'm a proud parent. I'm a former teacher, former everything, right? Stand-up comedian, like all these weird things that I used to do. But now what I like to do is be here with you and to be there for my kiddo, who's now about to be 17 and applying to colleges. And, it's a very weird time to be 17. But I'm so thrilled with the progress that he has gotten and how he is doing. I couldn't be more proud of him. But that doesn't make me an expert in the field of autism. I've been covering autism now from a journalistic standpoint for over 10 years. So I like to say that I have an informed opinion. But I believe me, there's what I don't know could fill the world. So, but ask me and I do have an informed opinion. And I'm happy to share it. Way too happy to share it. But don't confuse me for an expert. That's what that's all about. Now, we also like to start off the show every day with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what in the hey nani are those experts talking about. We give you the actual definition first. Then we give you a working definition after we attempt to make fun of the actual definition, because really, honestly, what else can you do with it? But we like to give you a place where you can start to begin to understand what the term means in your life, because otherwise, what does it matter, right? And my phrase is, if I can save you 5 minutes and $5, woohoo, we've done our work for the day, right? And sometimes the jargon can be so overwhelming when it's a barrage, right? It's just whapping you in the face. So we take it a little bit at a time. You know that expression, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Try to introduce these terms to you. And I see you guys use these terms now. Ooh, you're so good. But take a look. This is why it's so confusing sometimes, because our jargon term of the day is fluency. And I'll bet you're thinking, Shannon, I don't need you to explain this to me. I know what fluency is, because we move in a cosmopolitan world, right? Where people speak languages and we talk about being fluent in languages, right? But what does fluency have to do with autism and with applied behavior analysis and a person on the spectrum gaining a new skill? It's a little bit different, although somewhat related. So let's take a look at what our actual definition for fluency is. Fluency is exhibiting retention, endurance, stability, and adduction. Now, this is where they begin to lose me, because the only time I've ever heard of adduction is when you're doing a workout. Like I used to have an old Cher video from 1994. And there was this one exercise where you had to, step onto the block and lift your leg, and they called it adduction. That's the only ever time I've ever heard adduction, right? And when it, when you think about exhibiting retention, endurance, stability, and adduction, not really 100% sure. Let's move on to our working definition so we don't feel like we're doing push-ups, because that's not what this is about. When we're talking about fluency with an individual who's on the autism spectrum, who's learning a new skill, we're talking about being able to respond with both speed and accuracy. So a lot of times on the show, we talk about teaching methods. And of course, I'm a huge fan of applied behavior analysis. It's what my son had. And he didn't just have ABA, he had great ABA. And there's a big difference between ABA and quality ABA, right? And part of it is fluency. We were talking yesterday with a parent who was talking about getting her child to speak. And we were saying that, some people, this is an example of the difference between regular ABA, just run of the mill, hang a shingle out ABA, and quality ABA. That you'll see somebody in regular ABA, they can, teach an individual to recognize what something is, and they hold up a flashcard and it shows a picture of a table. And they're able to label it and say table. Well, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But when what you're wanting is for the person to be able to communicate and say, I need help, or to say, I have a pain in my thigh, or, stop, you're annoying me, right? When we want those kinds of conversations, or for them to be able to say, I feel sad, right? Those are the kinds of communication that we want to be able to have, and that those individuals want to be able to have, whether it's spoken or a picture exchange or something that you're doing with an assistive device, right? We want to be able to communicate at that level, right? So just teaching somebody flashcards is like step one in a 32-step process where we get to conversation. And I'm making that up. It's not necessarily 32 steps, and it's different for everybody, right? But fluency is the point at which you've learned something and you are able to utilize it and do it with the speed and accuracy so that it is yours. It is your skill. You have it now. Think about anything difficult that you learned to do in your life. I remember when my mother taught me how to drive, and it all felt so foreign, right? Back then, we were to hold hands at 10 and 2. I'm now told that is no longer the thing. I had to go to traffic school the other day, and it is no longer the thing, 10 and 2. In fact, they recommend 3 and 9 now. This is news to me, right? But I remember, sitting there at 10 and 2, and you have to look and you have to do the blinker, and it all just felt like too much. And it was very overwhelming to me as a 16-year-old back in the day. And of course, I would see my mother drive, and my mother, back in the day, my mother would have a cigarette going, and she would be driving, and she would have the radio, and she would be singing and doing whatever. And she wasn't causing an accident, but she was doing 18 things at the same time. And she wasn't having to think it through because she had fluency with her driving skills. Sometimes I think she had way too many things going on, but she was a safe driver. So when we, for instance, teach someone how to brush their teeth, we might break it down into these really small increments that look ridiculous, and you think, how is that ever going to work out, right? But we're teaching this part of the skill, and we're teaching this part of the skill, and this part of the skill, knowing that if we've got somebody who really knows what they're doing, they're going to link all of these things in the chain, and they literally call it chaining, together, right? So that they will be semi-proficient at this. They will be able to do the toothbrush and do the whole stream together, but that's not still quite fluent, is it? So fluency is the point at which somebody really possesses the skills and they're not having to think through every step of it, but they're able to do it with precision and accuracy in the speed at which the skill is completely theirs. Now that speed might be a little bit slower than you, or it may be faster than you, but it's a speed at which it's really theirs. And you guys know when you get something, when you have something and you're able to do it and not having to think through each step along the way, what that feels like. It feels different, doesn't it? And that is what we want to give everyone when they're learning a skill. If you're a teacher, this is what you want to do. So of course we want to give that to individuals who are on the autism spectrum, right? So fluency, we've talked before about mastery. Mastery is when you got it enough that you can do it in different circumstances, right? But fluency is yet another thing. And sometimes we get patient as teachers and as parents that we want the fluency, so we poo-poo every step that's along the way. But I just want you to think for yourself, try a new skill this week. What the heck, right? We're stuck in our houses, try a new skill. And you're going to have to learn it in these little increments, right? And it's not going to feel like it's really yours yet. But that's not a reason to give up, is it? Fluency comes with time. Fluency comes with being able to practice something again and again and again, and in different ways. And we can get to fluency on the skills that we teach individuals, but it does require some time and some effort. And that's where good ABA, I believe, comes in very handy. So there's our jargon for the day. Fluency, it's a thing that we all want, all of us, right? Why would we deny that to individuals on the spectrum? Okay, moving on. We always have a question of the day, something that we ask you guys. And our question today is, what do you do? That's not what it says, but what do you do for self-care? What's your regimen for self-care? What's the thing that really feels like self-care for you? And I'm just going to move right on to our topic for the week. Our topic this entire week is self-care and how we take care of ourselves. And for those of you who may be caregivers that are out there, especially caregivers of young children, on the spectrum, been there and done that. And a lot of times we put ourselves last, right? But we talked yesterday about that we need to take care of ourselves because this is a marathon, not a sprint, and we want to be there. And I've seen all too many times parents who get sick, caregivers who get sick because they didn't take care of self. And if the thing that we want more than anything else is to help take care of our kiddos, if we get sick, wow, that's mission failure, right? So we've got to take care of ourselves for that. And I know that just doesn't get it done. We just don't, like, it doesn't compute for us, right? We go, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it later, right? But the other thing where we cannot have mission failure is that we need to model the behavior that our kids, and please don't tell me, oh, but my child has more challenges and doesn't notice. I have yet to meet the individual, no matter what their functionality level, that doesn't recognize things that other people do. Sometimes it's on a level that isn't a languageable level, but they still notice what other people do. So if you are taking care of yourself, you are modeling the behavior for them, which is the most important step in helping them to do that for themselves. So, and many of you have written in and said, Shannon, but I don't know how. I don't know how to do it anymore. And I for sure don't have the time. And I want to remind you that this is the thing. Start doing it with your kiddos. Find the thing, and it might just mean getting out 3 pans, if you have pie pans or whatever, and saying, we're going to do a foot soak today. Maybe you all go sit on the edge of the tub and you stick your feet in the tub, and we have a foot soak today. And while we're foot soaking, we can sing songs or talk, or they can have anything but electronics in their hands, right? Squishies or whatever, but that we get the foot soak in. You'll get it, they'll get it. It's not the end of the world. Everything else can wait. Do something of that nature. Find something that you can do. We've talked before, and it's Thursday. We usually do our mindfulness moment on Thursday. But lay on the floor, put a pillow on everybody's stomach, or put one of their stuffed animals on their stomach, and we try to make the pillow go up and down, and then we play with it, make it go up slowly, make it go down slowly. Rome wasn't built in a day. It may not go perfectly the first time. Even if you only get 3 breaths is great. It's better than what we were doing before. But self-care has got to be on the agenda now more than ever, right? It's how we're going to get through this great isolation that we're in. Okay, we're going to talk more about that later, but I've got a great guest for you guys today. I'm so excited. We've been talking about having, and we postponed Hitomi, and I thought that I had told you that, Traven. So so much of what we're doing these days is just crazy, crazy, crazy. But who we do have, because I wanted to make more time for her to be on the show, we have Chelsea Darnell, and it's the first time that we've had her on the show, although we talked about having her on the show many times before. And Chelsea is a remarkable advocate. She is so talented. I mean, the more I talk to her, the more I find out of the things that she can do that are just amazing. Like, everything that I've talked to her about, she's great at. But one of the things that she's doing right now is she's hosting a weekly movie chat, and we're going to talk with her about that. This is the poster for this week's movie chat, and I'm the Parent Trap. I mean, stop me. I can't, right? Love it so much. Love both versions of it. So we're going to talk with Chelsea about where she's doing this and how you can potentially join or have your teams join, and why that would be super fabulous. So can we welcome Chelsea to the show? Is she in our green room, and can we bring her in? And while we're doing that, I'm saying hi to Amanda and Bonnie and Johanny and Christina and Party Outlet. So love it. Chelsea, look, hi, it's Chelsea Darnell. I'm so excited to see you. Are you outside?
I am outside.
I think you are the first guest in this format that has braved doing an interview outside. I love it. Welcome to Autism Live.
Thank you so much, Shannon.
I can't believe that we've waited this long to do this, because I wanted to get dressed up today. I didn't, but I wanted to get dressed up because I was like, what's going on? And I realize that most of the time when I see you, Chelsea, it's because you're on the red carpet and you're all dressed up. So I have associated getting dressed up with you. What a wonderful thing to partner, right? You feel like dress up to me. So thrilled that you are here, Chelsea. And for people who don't know you, we're going to talk about a lot of different things with you, but I want to start with you have we were just showing the movie chat poster. You have a new role at the Ed Asner Family Center. Tell us what your role there is.
Sure. So in addition to being a social director for the Young Adult Social Club at the Ed Asner Family Center, I started a program which I call Movie Chat. Basically, what we do is we watch a movie before every meeting, and then we all meet every Saturday at 7 o'clock and we discuss it.
I just love this. Can I tell you how much I love this? It's like book club, but with movies. It's just fabulous.
Thank you. Yes, that was exactly what I was going for, a movie variant of a book club. And if anyone wants to join, we're actually watching 2 movies this week. We're watching both versions of The Parent Trap, and we're going to compare the remake and the original.
I just and so far the movies that I have seen you do, this has made me so excited because I just think this is so smart. But also people will sometimes say, I just don't know what movies to watch with my teen on the spectrum. And now from now on, I'm just going to say, go look up Movie Chat and see all the movies that Chelsea did, because you've had really good taste in movies. So tell them which movies you've done so far.
So in the last few weeks, our very first movie was Groundhog Day.
Very apropos.
Yeah, it was I chose that movie on purpose because it felt fitting with the current time period.
Yes.
And then we've also done Ferris Bueller's Day Off, we've done Back to the Future, and we've done Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Great list. And now Parent Trap, which, you know, my sister and I, somebody gave us the book. There was a book for Parent Trap, and it had pictures from the original movie. But see, we didn't have Netflix when I was a kid. And we would look at the pictures and we would say, oh, someday we hope we'll get to see this movie. And I was probably an adult the first time I got to see the original, because there was no place, once it came out, there was no streaming service to go watch it. So it's one of my favorite movies of all time. And then, of course, when they did the remake, love it. I'm going to ask you, do you have a favorite of the 2? Which is, or do you not want to say before Saturday?
So I actually haven't determined that yet. I'm still in the process of watching both.
Okay. All right.
I'm definitely going to get that done before 7 p.m. on Saturday. So
okay, and so for people who are watching this, you know, the Ed Asner Family Center is located in the suburbs of Los Angeles, and you're, as you said, you're the social director, which I want to know more about that. But in the past, when we've talked about things happening at the Ed Asner Center, people would be like, man, I wish I lived in LA. It's such a bummer that I don't live in LA. But now you guys have put so much stuff online. Is this Movie Chat something that, who gets to come to this and how can people come to it? Let's say that.
Well, so it's first of all, we welcome anybody from anywhere in the world. I mean, obviously we're all going to be on Zoom, so it's a perfect format. When we start doing things in person in person again, I actually still want to do this on Zoom because I think it's connecting people from like all over the country. And if we're lucky, the world, it's a neurodiverse format. So all abilities are welcome. Usually there's stuff posted on my Instagram or my Facebook about details for the event. I'm not sure what the meeting ID and password is for this week's event. Usually Shelby Landucci, she'll post, she works at the center, she'll post stuff about the meeting ID and the password.
Okay. So if you want to attend this, it's 7 p.m. on Saturday, and it's every Saturday, but that's 7 p.m. Pacific time. So you have to do the math for whatever time zone you're in. kind of, a little bit later for you, but it's Saturday night, right? For those of you on the East Coast, but perfect, timing every place else. And even, like I said, Saturday night, it's the night to stay up late. So you can go to the Ed Asner Family Center on their website. You can go to their Facebook. But Chelsea, what is your Instagram so people can connect with you there?
I think it's Chelsea Darnell 22. That's my username on Instagram.
Okay. So people check that out. So what does it mean to be the social director at the Ed Asner Center? Because that's
Oh, no problem. So the Ed Asner Center, we have a young adult social club, and it's exactly as it sounds. We bring neurodiverse young adults together just to hang out. Obviously, we haven't been able to do that lately because of the current circumstances, but in the past, I've helped plan some of the events for our young adult social club, and I plan on doing it more when everybody can congregate in person again. I've planned, I helped plan we had a line dancing we did line dancing, so country line dancing. That was one of the things I helped plan. We've had a Valentine's dance.
Which was the best thing ever. Can I just tell you, it was the best thing ever. My family got to go to that. It isn't always, a lot of times it's just, for those individuals that are in that young adult group, but this was the Valentine dance. Families were invited. My family got to go. We are still talking about it as being one of the best things. And can I tell you, it's the happy thing that we think of when we're feeling isolated, because it was so awesome. And I danced until I made myself a little sick because I'm old and fat. Now, Shelby has put in that if you want to RSVP for the movie chat, it's Shelby, SHELBY at edasnerfamilycenter.org. That if you go there, you can RSVP, and then she'll make sure that you get the information of how to log in so that you can participate. Now, is there a cost for participating in the movie chat? Do you know, Chelsea?
So far, it's all free.
There we go.
It's all free. Yeah.
So for all of you who are sitting there and you're like, I don't know what to do with my teen, my young adult has nothing to do on Saturday night, they do now. So write to Shelby at edasnerfamilycenter.org and tell Shelby that you want to register RSVP for this weekend, Saturday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, where you're going to talk about the two parent traps. Yes, I wanted to say family trap, but it isn't Parent Trap. Okay, so what is it that you're doing all these amazing events, Chelsea? What is it that you're hoping to accomplish with all of this?
That's a good question. So I've done a couple of interviews on red carpet. Some of them haven't been posted yet. I did back in February. I did one interview at the Makeup and Hairstylist Guild and another at the Art Directors Guild. Those videos are still yet to be completed, just like the clips put together and stuff. When they are completed, though, you will likely find them on my Facebook or my Instagram.
Okay, cool. And I have seen you do some red carpets. I've been, standing a little further down from you on the red carpet, and I've been a little bit in awe of how you have handled it. And I'm looking forward to seeing those other interviews too, and looking forward for us to be able to watch those. But so here's a terrible, terrible question, and you can say I don't want to answer it, but do you have a favorite, someone that you've interviewed that was super exciting for you?
That's a really good question, but it's also one I have trouble answering because there's a lot of people, a lot of interesting people I've interviewed, and most people are very pleasant. I don't know, there's a lot of good ones.
And let's not say favorite, because then it makes it feel like everybody else is less, but who are some interviews that you really enjoyed? Let's say that.
Okay, yeah, that's perfect. So when I did the red carpet for the Ed Asner Family Center's big gala. It was also celebrating Ed Asner's 90th birthday.
Yeah.
The MC that night was Tom Bergeron, who hosts Dancing with the Stars. and I interviewed him for a little bit, and he was really fun to interview. He was really nice.
I love that. I love that. He seems like, like a really sweet guy. And we love to hear that when we see people on camera and then hear that they're nice in person, I think it makes us feel good.
Absolutely.
So love to hear that.
Refreshing.
And then anybody else that you want to shout out that was super fun to interview?
Oh, it was really fun to interview at that same gala. So Brad Garrett was interesting. Well, because I had met him a couple of times. He actually went to high school with both of my parents. So we bonded over the fact that he was talking about different memories he had of going to high school with my mom and dad. So that was really fun.
Oh, how fun. That's hilarious. I always find Brad Garrett funny because a lot of times when he's acting or when when he's performing, he has a very deep voice. But when he just has his regular speaking voice, it feels like it's 3 octaves higher, which I always think is hilarious because he's this big, huge, tall guy and he has this very deep voice. But then when he's talking, it's a little bit more,
Yeah, in fact, he's so tall that in high school, they did this thing where he was a ventriloquist and my dad was the dummy. Because if anybody knows my dad, they know that he's about 5 feet.
Well, is there video somewhere that can be obtained of that? Because I'll bet that was hilarious.
Not that I know of. I don't think I wish there was.
That would be, but even picturing it is super fun. What great fun to have high school memories of people like that. That's wonderful. So do you like being on the red carpet? Is it fun for you?
It's definitely really fun. And it's definitely especially fun when there's a celebrity I know that's going to be there that I'm excited about and they're right there in front of me. It's very refreshing.
Who I got to meet at that event that I thought I was just gonna split into a million pieces was Cloris Leachman.
Oh my God, that was a trip.
Right?
I only got a very short time with her and I didn't know what the heck was gonna come out of her mouth.
Yeah, she's a pip, that one. She is a pip, but it was just such an honor for me to get to meet her. I've been a fan of hers forever. So, okay, here's an equally horrible question. So everybody has a get list, who they would like to get an interview. So who would it be really exciting for you to interview?
I don't know. I'm kind of open. I don't know. It depends on the event and who. Yeah. I don't know.
There's nobody that you're a big fangirl of?
I mean, there's definitely, actually, there's definitely people I'm a huge fangirl of. But one of the people I would really like to interview is Paul Rudd.
Oh, that would be a good one, right?
Yeah.
Now, why Paul Rudd? Are you a big Ant-Man fan or is it other things? Because he's been in so many things.
Well, Ant-Man was where I was like, this dude's cool. He's also very handsome and very funny. I don't know. He just seems super fun.
Yeah. And I suspect because Paul Rudd has been doing movies forever and he still looks like he's 28. I don't know what that's about.
I don't know. I don't even think he might, he doesn't age.
Exactly. But another guy that I think is very sweet. So we're putting it out there. Paul Rudd, Chelsea would like to interview you. And hopefully Paul Rudd will see this and go, okay, let's make it happen. That would be super fun. Okay, so that's all super fun. And again, I want to tell people, write to Shelby at edasnerfamilycenter.org to find out how you can do movie chat with Chelsea and friends. It happens on Saturday night, 7 p.m. Pacific time. It's free. It's all part of the Ed Asner Family Center because Chelsea is doing a wonderful job as the social director there. But I want to switch a little bit because we've talked about the fact that, some of the things that you were doing, you just can't do right now because we're in this COVID emergency. I like that people are calling it the Great Isolation. And I got to ask, because I'm asking all of our guests, how are you doing with all of that? You personally with the whole staying at home thing?
For me, I'm fine. I'm very lucky. We live in a good neighborhood. I'm with my parents. I have one friend over at a time in my backyard, 6 feet apart at the safe distance. I've done a lot of exercising, a lot of baking and cooking, so that's been really fun. There's
One
a lot of,
offsets the other.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things about this time that I'm kind of gonna miss, and I actually like. I didn't really have like clear hobbies before. Now I've had time to develop some hobbies, so it's really actually this has been a really meaningful time in my life.
I love hearing that. What tell me what you've been doing hobby wise.
So I like it was my mom's birthday last week, and I actually not from scratch, but I baked her a cake, so that was really fun.
Lovely. Happy birthday to your mom, belatedly. What kind of cake was it?
It was a lemon, I think it was from Duncan Hines. It was like a lemon cake, and then I put strawberry frosting on it.
Ooh,
And it was
sounds
like
good.
and I put it in like a heart-shaped tray, so it comes out. So it came out as like a heart.
I love it. I'll bet she loved it too.
She did. She
Uh,
got
so baking is a new thing that you got going on. Any other hobbies that you've started?
I have this thing. It's called the recumbent bike. It's basically a tricycle, except it looks like like something an adult would ride. You have like a thing, you like move it and then another thing. And I've been riding that around my neighborhood. So that's been really fun.
Oh, that's super fun. And any advice, because we got a lot of people that are watching that are stressed or have young adults that are feeling stressed. Is it the hobby thing that's been helping with the stress, or is there anything else that you do when you start to feel stressed?
Sure. Definitely. Exercise is really good. If you want to, learning how to do something is really good. So whether that's baking or I don't know, knitting or like solving a jigsaw puzzle, like using like finding a new skill is definitely really good. It's also you could also like FaceTiming people is really good. Um playing
You
playing
should be a social director because you know all the things. This is wonderful. We have not I have a question here for you, but I feel like you sort of have answered a little bit, but I'm asking everybody, tell us one good thing that has come out of this period of isolation for you. What do you you've already said that hobbies, but is there anything else you want to say?
definitely a lot more quality time with my family. That's been really nice.
What a wonderful thing. And it is interesting. We were all going at breakneck speed, and then we all had to come to a complete and total halt. And I love looking at it and seeing that there are some good things like that, because we'll never get this time again. And I'm sure your parents are just over the moon at getting to spend this time with you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because I know I feel that way about spending time with my kiddo. Okay, we haven't talked about, I told everybody you are so hard to classify because you have so many talents in so many different areas. You're a wonderful host and you're a social director, but we haven't talked about the fact that you sing also, that you are an amazing singer. That's that's the first time that I saw you. I was at the Ed Asner Center and they were doing karaoke night and different people were getting up and we, like, a bunch of us were making fools of ourselves, but I gotta say, you got up and you opened your mouth and I was like, who is that? I was like, they got a ringer in, they have a professional in. And then the next time I met you, you were performing at the Denim and Diamonds Gala for Autism Care Today, and you got up and brought the house down. And it was an entirely different style than what you sang at the karaoke. So what is this? Is this just another hobby, or is this, tell us what you do singing wise?
Oh, singing has always been a passion of mine. It's not what I want to do it's not quite what I want to do as a career. I want to get into voiceover. But I do, because like the music career sounds like really like a lot, and I don't really want to get into it. But I do love singing and I do love performing, and I've always loved performing since I was a little kid. I've always loved singing. I was the lead singer of the jazz band at my high school for 2 years. And I did my college's jazz band for 1 semester, so that was really fun. I definitely
Well, that explains why you can, because you were doing scatting at the Denim and Diamonds thing, and I was like, what is going on? She's a jazz singer too. You were awesome, madam. It was really, really awesome. But now I got to know about the voiceover thing. So obviously, are you taking part in the voiceover that's happening at the Ed Asner Family Center?
So I don't think I've been. I don't think I've done any voiceover for the center, yet. However, I did see. I got to go to one of Jessie Keenan's classes. She teaches voiceover at the Ed Asner Family Center, and it was really cool. And I got to participate a little bit, so that was really fun.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but my husband does voiceover. So at some point, the two of you will have to. And you have an amazing voice, Chelsea, and I'm sure because you're a singer that you can do all different kinds of things with it. Have the Nickelodeon people heard what you can do?
Not yet.
All right. Well, we did a shout out to Paul Rudd. Let's do a shout out to Nickelodeon, because I bet you would be a great voice for animation. Or is there other, like, what would you like to do with voiceover? What's your dream?
So actually, animation is what I want to do. With voiceover, I'm open to all kinds of voiceover, but animation is what I'm really into, because I'd love to be able to use both my own voice and different voices that I can do.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but are there any other voices you'd like to share with us right now?
Oh,
in case Nickelodeon is watching?
Off the top of my head,
do you have a little kid voice or a little, like, for animation, or do you have like a scary voice or an animal voice or anything?
Let's see.
I put you on the spot.
Okay.
You don't have to.
I definitely like doing, because I have a lower voice, I definitely like doing villains a lot.
Okay, I can see that.
So,
well, I won't make you do it here, because you don't want to. You don't want to give it away. Make Nickelodeon come to you and listen to your voiceover reel. But I love it. I think that I can see that for you, because you're so talented in so many different ways. So, we've been so enjoying this conversation, but now I want to move back in time a little bit to talk about how you got here and why the things that are important to you are important to you. So how do you identify yourself, Chelsea?
Diagnostically, just out of curiosity.
In life, I mean, like, honestly, you don't even have to go there. Like, when you're talking to people about who you are, how do you identify yourself? And if you don't diagnostically, then
depends. Some parts of my identity are important, but they're on a need to know basis. So some people, like, I don't know, if I were to be asked, like, I would tell people that I'm Jewish. I would tell people I'm a woman. Depending on how close I am to a person, I would tell them that I'm high functioning autistic.
And I love that answer. Because there are different contexts in which each of these things would be important to share or not as important to share, right? But I'm sure that now we're going to get a barrage. Even though I had said that you were a self-advocate, I'm sure that you get people who say that they meet you and that they have no idea. Is that ever troublesome for you when people?
Not really. I don't like. I don't. It's not something that I get offended by, and it's not something I would expect people to assume. Like, but if there's, like, I don't really get offended if people can or can't tell.
Right.
It's just what it is.
Chelsea, I love you. We just need more of you in the world. I'm serious. Okay, but and I'm going to ask questions, and I'm going to try not to be offensive, but if there's ever something that you don't, or you're like, yeah, that's just not important, Shannon, I won't be offended at all. But I know that our viewers are going to want to know these kinds of things. So how old were you when you did get a diagnosis?
I want to say I was about 2.
Okay, so way earlier than you would actually remember.
Yeah, and in fact, we didn't really talk about my diagnosis until much, much later in my life. It was one of those things where kind of I had to be ready to talk about it,
Mhm.
and I was ready to talk about it like my junior or senior year of high school, and that's when it was confirmed to me, if that makes any sense. Like
It
it was
makes
one of those,
total sense.
yeah.
But I know, because so many people write in and say, I don't know when I should talk to my child about a diagnosis, and I don't know how to do it. So when you say that you had to be ready, what made you ready, and how did you tell your parents that you were ready?
Well, I think it was like one of those things where I just brought up the question. And the thing is that like it was before I brought up the question, like it was about working on my skills, working on my, emotional stability and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not a parent. I don't know exactly what it's like to be in the position of a parent, but I do know that for my parents, they wanted to make sure that I was able to develop as a person without putting myself into too many boxes.
I love that. And look at what a great job they did. Clearly, they accomplished that. Um, so what made you think I need to have this conversation? Were you having challenges in certain areas, or did somebody say something to you that you went to them and said, hey, what's the deal here?
Not necessarily. It was part of me just like I always knew I like had very individual struggles and stuff like that. I definitely understood that. And I knew I had like other diagnoses like OCD, and I didn't think like they wanted to do. I know my parents, they want to do like one diagnosis at a time, like,
Yeah.
and I know that I wouldn't have been able to handle two diagnoses at a time, especially in middle school, which is a difficult time for everybody. But it was especially difficult time for me. Not like friendship wise, I had a lot of friends, but emotionally it was definitely very difficult. I'm glad, I'm lucky I've had a lot of support, but it wasn't anything that like, it was more just something like I was doing research. I had always been like, and I was already working with other special needs individuals. And I think there was like things about myself that I like. So it was like one of those things that added up. And then when it was confirmed, there wasn't really any sort of surprises or anything like that. It wasn't, yeah.
Wow. And so you mentioned that, there were some things that you were having challenges. What do you think your biggest challenges were back then
Back
in
then,
middle school?
I think a lot of just a lot of just a lot of worrying about what people, thought. Like basically in middle school, whatever I worried about the same things in a way that most middle schoolers were worried about, but it was magnified, if that makes any sense.
That totally makes sense. I think what's so incredible when you think about the full circle of the fact that now you're a social director, helping other people at that age begin to overcome what was challenging for you. There's something absolutely beautiful about that, Chelsea. Is that part of why you wanted to do this work? Because you knew what you struggled with?
In a way, and it's very interesting because I was always a very social person. I was always a very social person, but I definitely had more, even though I was very social, I had a lot of anxiety even while I was being social. That's definitely a part of why I like to help other people, but also I just like to engage people like in general. Like I just have and I've also like, it's a combination of things. I've worked with um, people with various special needs and disabilities even before I was well aware of my diagnosis. So it's part of that too. There's a lot of, it's not just one thing that led me here. It's many, 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 many things.
And so, I look at you and I just think, my gosh, what an incredible young woman who, it's just so enjoyable to spend time with you like this. But we all have challenges. And so I'm curious, and you don't have to share this, but are there challenges that you still have that you're trying to overcome? Are there things that you're working on? Like, there's things
Oh,
I'm
sure.
working on.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing right now is like, because I also have the OCD on top of my spectrum stuff. So
Yes.
a lot of the OCD stuff is what I'm working on now and will always be working on, and every year it gets better and better. These are things I'll probably be working on my whole life, but it's manageable. It's good. I'm lucky to have a lot of support.
Yeah, that's a wonderful. We'll have to talk, and then you and I, when this is all over, we'll have to go and have tea or something, because I also have OCD. Has anybody tried cognitive behavioral therapy with you? I'm sure you've like somebody has talked about cognitive behavioral therapy with you, or done it, and you may not even know that that's what it was called, where they systematically desensitize you to some things.
No, what I have had though are like I've had a lot of I've had therapists. I've had like classroom from like I've had classroom aides. Like I've never had anyone in my life who's tried to stifle my creativity.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
No one should, because they should let you run.
Yeah, everybody who's helped me in my life with all of my diagnoses have helped me. They've actually helped me, and they're all people I consider my family. So
that's wonderful. What do you think, since we're talking about things that helped you, what do you think has helped you the most?
That's hard to say. I think a combination of my therapist and my parents. My parents are probably, because my parents were very committed to making sure I had the right resources, that I had the right opportunities to academically and creatively succeed.
It's just a wonderful thing. My face hurts. I'm smiling so hard. Okay, let's talk about long-term goals. Obviously you want to be a voiceover artist. What else do you see for yourself in the future, Chelsea? Sky the limit?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that the universe is the limit. I hope that like there's anything's possible. I'm open to a lot of possibilities. I don't know, like I'm a very short-term oriented person too. Like I know I want to do voiceover, and I know that like maybe I want to get married. I know that much. Like, and
do you think you want to have kids? Do you want to be a mom?
That's a good question. I don't want to give birth. That I know for sure. I know I don't want to give birth. If I want to maybe like adopt and maybe like an older kid, because I don't know if I'll ever be able to handle a toddler.
Listen, I think it's great that you know yourself. And I have a very dear friend who was very clear and said, I am not giving birth. That is not happening. And she has adopted 2 children and loves being a mom. But she was very clear from the beginning, there will be no babies in this body. And I love the fact that she was true to herself. Okay, so what, if there was one thing that you wanted the world to know about you, what would you say?
That's a good question. I don't know, that I love people. I love talking to people. I love getting to know people. I'm happy to be your friend and a supporter.
What a wonderful thing. I just want to cry, because you know that there is a world out there that still thinks that individuals on the spectrum don't have empathy, don't care. They put a label and go, these folks have deficits in social skills, so they must not care about people. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Oh,
and I don't know how anybody could spend this amount of time with you and still have that thought hold water.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a common misconception, and hopefully, like a lot of us, I hopefully that most of us on the spectrum, I think we're breaking those misconceptions every day, and I'm glad they're being broken more and more and more every year and every moment. Yeah, if we can open people's minds, it's a great thing.
Yeah, well, you're doing that every day that you're doing things. And again, we want to say that if people want to spend more time with you, they have a ready opportunity every Saturday night at 7 p.m. The Asner Family Center is hosting on Zoom movie chat with Chelsea and friends. And it's meant ideally for folks on the spectrum that are teen and adults, correct?
That is correct.
Is a parent allowed to hang out with their teen or adult, or is it better to put them in the Zoom and let them be?
If a parent wants to join and they feel like it's most comfortable for them to be there with their teen or young adult, that's wonderful. We can need as many people as we can get, adults, parents, children, friends, and or even or friends of friends. We need as many people as we can get.
Okay. And every week it's a different movie, or this week it's 2 movies because you're going to compare and contrast the old Parent Trap and the newer Parent Trap. Right. And then if you want to attend this, all you have to do is RSVP to Shelby, SHELBY at edasnerfamilycenter.org, and she can get you hooked up so that you'll have the codes to be able, because you're going to have codes. You can't just, it's not like you have to have the address to a party, right? Well, this is the code, the address to the party. And so you can get that for yourself or get that for your teen. What a wonderful thing. And anybody around the world, if you've got an internet connection, and I know you do if you're watching this, then you can attend and go to that. But if you want to be following Chelsea, where are the places that we can follow your adventures? Tell us everything.
There's my Facebook, which is just Chelsea Darnell. And then there's my Instagram, which I think is Chelsea Darnell 22.
Okay. And I am Instagram illiterate. I'm just going to admit that I'm that old that I don't know how to do that. But the people who do know how to do Instagram should be able to find you with that name, right? Chelsea Darnell 22.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I just want to thank you for being an amazing role model.
Thank you.
And for just being an incredible person. And I'm so glad that we've been saying we were going to do this forever, but I'm glad that we finally had the opportunity. And I can't wait until you're doing events again in person back at the center, because that Valentine's Day dance was the most fun I've had in a very long time. It was like a really good wedding, but we didn't have to bring a gift. That's what it was. It was dancing, and I love being around kids and young people, and I love being around my kid. And to be able to go to a party with your kid and have them go off and interact and dance with people and hang with their friends, but then come and dance with you, that's what a wedding feels like to me, because you're all there together as a family, right? But this was that, but we didn't have to bring a gift for the bride and groom. So it was super fabulous, awesome. It was just a really wonderful thing. And I want to say too, that at one point, my son came up and asked you to dance, and you were like so fabulous. And, because we're trying to get him used to doing those kinds of things. And so thank you for allowing him to cut his teeth on asking women to dance with you. So.
Of course, your son's amazing. I mean, we were like counselors, volunteers at Camp Ed together. Like, we've had a lot of fun. He's like super cool and chill. He's really funny. He's great. He's great.
Well, he feels the same way about you. So it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing for me as a mom that, you're a circle that he's moving in, because that's good people, right? And all moms want that. So if you want that for your kiddos, or you're watching and you're like, hey, I want to be a part of that, you need to Shelby at Ed Asner. See, I've lost it again. Where is it? Shelby at the at sign at edasnerfamilycenter.org, and check that out. Chelsea, thank you so much. We're out of time. I don't know where the time went. But thank you so much, and stay safe and stay healthy and keep cooking and keep chatting about the movies. And let us know when you make all those red carpet videos live, so that we can tell people to go watch them.
Absolutely, for sure. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks for being with us, Chelsea.
Thank you.
Oh, I want to remind everybody we're going to be back tomorrow, and our guest tomorrow, Anita Lesko, is going to be talking about her new book, The Food Revolution. And we have Autism Self-Advocate Ryan Lee is going to be with us as well. That'll be tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. Happy April. Bye-bye.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Autism Live and to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Nancy.
How about that? So thrilled to be here with you guys this morning live on this Friday the 13th.
Oh, is it Friday the 13th? I didn't realize that. It is.
Friday the 13th. So like the world isn't strange enough. We're looking to see what else is strange this morning. But want to say good morning to everybody. We're saying hello to Michelle and to Joel.
Joel got some honorable mention.
From the Real Poets Olympic Standard of Rap Music. That's wonderful. That's absolutely fabulous. And we're saying good morning to Michelle.
Yeah.
And thrilled that you guys are here. I don't know if you noticed that we have a new opener as the show gets ready to start for a minute before the show starts.
Very nice music.
And can I tell you that the music is the funnest part of it, because that music was created by Spectrum Laboratories. And we commissioned them to do it. They got paid to do it.
Wow, very cool.
So young teens and adults on the spectrum who created that music. We absolutely love Spectrum Laboratory, and we love the participants there and love the music that they made for us. It was really, they created several different pieces that you guys will see us unveiling as the show continues on. So really excited about that. Nancy, you had a big birthday at your house this week.
Yes, Wyatt turned 19.
That I just like, where does the time go?
I don't know. Where does the time go? It goes by so fast, Shannon.
When we met, we still considered our boys to be little boys for a hot second.
Yeah.
And then we couldn't say they were little boys anymore. Then they were boys. Then we couldn't even say boys anymore. They were teenagers. And, 19, there's that's all man. So tell him we said happy birthday, and we're sorry that we didn't get to be there with you guys. But we look forward to getting to be with you again.
Okay, sounds great.
Now, we've got a great guest who's going to be joining us in just about 17 minutes here. Kristyn Roth from Autism Society of America, who's been with us before on the show, is going to be joining us to talk about a wide variety of topics, not the least of which is how we all cope with COVID and how Autism Society of America is helping folks on the spectrum and caregivers for folks on the spectrum to be able to get through this. So I can't wait to hear about that.
We all need that. We all need to hear about that.
Yeah, and that and a bunch of other things as well. So we're excited to welcome her back to the show. Hey, I want to remind all of you, some of you are already writing in, and we're thrilled that you're writing in. But for those of you who don't know how to do that, this show is meant to be interactive. We want to hear your thoughts, feelings, questions, and concerns. There are a lot of ways to participate. We are live right now on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Periscope, on all 4 of those. And you can write in directly in those platforms, and it will show up here on our screen. So please feel free to do that. That's all free. Now, the left side of the column that Traven is showing you are all the places that we are a free podcast. So iTunes, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Ghana, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Audible, and Deezer, plus more. We just can't fit them on the page anymore. So if you're looking to listen or watch, and some of these, like iTunes, you get your choice. Do you want to listen and watch, or do you just want to listen and go on a hike and take Autism Live with you? You can. But we're all those places. If you listen to podcasts and are not seeing our podcast where you are, please let us know. We'd be happy to look and see if that's someplace that we can be in the future. So Nancy, before our guest, we've got some news today.
Yeah, we've got some great news stories for you.
Yeah, and most of them are, I try to keep it on the happier side. So anyway, the first one, this is a story that we have covered before in the past. A story that's been in the news and been a heartbreak for a lot of us. A young man on the autism spectrum who caused a car accident. There's no doubt about that. He caused a car accident, and injured 2 people pretty significantly.
Yes, one injured people has ended up being paralyzed.
Yes. I mean, this is nothing to sneeze at.
No, it's a very serious accident.
Yes, a very serious accident. And he was put in jail for this with a 10-year sentence. Now, the thing that has been so difficult for so many of us is that the reason why he was in jail was it wasn't, there are different things that you can convict someone of, but he got convicted of deliberately causing the accident because they said he was trying to commit suicide.
Right.
And what they were basing that on was that when the police questioned him afterwards, one of the questions they asked him was, were you trying to kill yourself? To which he responded, yes. And then they said, well, then you need to sign this piece of paper that you're guilty of this. He did, and then went to jail for 10 years. And of course, his mother has been the hugest champion of trying to get the word out, because you and I know, Nancy, that that's not the right way to ask a question of someone who's on the autism spectrum.
Exactly.
It just, even if it's somebody who's fairly high functioning and has language, this is not the way that we would ask that question. And in fact, when asked the question in a different way, he did not, when someone is asking a yes or no question, for people who are on the autism spectrum, you may or may not get to what you're really trying to get to. And when asked the question of, that was in such a way that he would have to say, I was trying to kill myself, he was like, no, that's not what I was trying to do. I'll tell you, every time we've talked about this story, Nancy, it's reminded me when my dad had a stroke. And he didn't have the ability to speak. And I went with him to a doctor's appointment, and the doctor said to him, now, Norman, how are you feeling? And my dad said, good. And he said, so you're ready to go back to work? And my dad said, yep. And he asked another question, and my dad said, yes. And he said, do you think you can handle the stress? Yes. Absolutely. All these yes questions. And he said, great. And he was filling out the paperwork to send my dad back to work. And I said, hold the phone 1 second. And my dad had a huge loss of language with his stroke. And I said, let's ask him a different question. I said, Dad, can you explain to the doctor what you do for a living? My father was a technical director for television.
Right.
Very complex job.
Yeah.
And my dad looked, and he got this look on his face, and he said, the thing, the hoogie, and then, and it was just heartbreaking to watch that he could not express, he couldn't remember, he didn't know what he did for a living.
Right.
And the doctor was like, oh, and then he started asking different questions. Sometimes it's about the question we ask. So this young man has been sitting in jail for 2 years.
Right.
And the mom has been fighting, and finally we're seeing a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
Do you want to tell them the good news?
Yes. The governor of Virginia has granted him a conditional pardon. And so we want to stress that it is conditional. There were terms of this pardon that he has to abide by.
Yes, absolutely. And he's not going to get out immediately. He won't get out until the spring. But when he gets out, there are certain things that he has to abide by that are pretty stringent. And one of them is that he can no longer drive a car.
Right.
I know that they reached out to the couple that he injured, and obviously the gentleman that he injured is not able to speak, and the wife is decimated. I mean, she's absolutely decimated, and said that he's a mere shell of who he was before. I mean, my heart goes completely out to them, and
It's
I know
a very tragic story all the way around.
So tragic all the way around. And the mother of the young man who was in prison for this has said many times, how sorry she is for the family. No one is saying that this wasn't a horrible, horrible thing. But the wife did express, when asked by one person about this, she said, well, he should never drive again. And they did include that in the conditions, that he is not able to drive, but he's also going to have to demonstrate that he is not going to do this kind of thing again. They put in provisions to do that. And should anything happen, then he will have to go right back into jail. So, a horrible story, but at least we're seeing that we're starting to get at what really needs to happen. And having this young man not understand the questions, I think we just need to be fair always. Right. And the fact remains that even, it's a horrible thing that happened. He is taking responsibility. His family is taking responsibility, but the thing he was charged with would not have been what he was charged with had he been able to fully communicate. So I think that's, really, really tough story, but at least we're moving in the right direction, I think. Now, Nancy, let's talk a little bit about this young man who has been taking trips to the post office. I'm going to restart my camera. Hang on, you guys.
Okay.
You go right ahead.
Okay, this is a wonderful story out of Canada about a teen with autism who lost his motivation for his daily walks to the post office. And so his mom started a social media campaign, and he's been getting so many letters and gifts. And we want to say this young man lost 75 pounds, and the walking was a big part of that. And so he came in and didn't see any letters, and so she just went on Facebook and said, "Hey, can you send him some mail?" And the outpouring of support has been unbelievable.
Yeah, I just want to say this is such a great example of ABA, because we do things because there's a reinforcer. This is what ABA says. ABA says when we do things repeatedly, it's because we're getting some sort of a paycheck. So earlier this year, he had a birthday and there was something else that came up.
He graduated from high school. He completed high school.
And as a result of that, he was getting mail. They wanted him to be working out. His the one of the people that works with him was having him walk to the post office, and and he was getting all this benefit from it. Now, for some people, the benefit would be, oh, I love the fresh air, and for some people, it would be, I lost 75 pounds. But it was clearly, it's not a reinforcer unless it's maintaining the behavior. And it became clear that what was maintaining the behavior of him walking to the post office was the excitement of sometimes I get mail. But then there was a long stretch where there was no mail. And now there's tons of mail. And we do have the address here. And mom had posted on Facebook that it was okay to share. Normally, I would not share anybody's address, but the young man's name is Carson Swayze, and that's spelled Swazey. And again, mom said that it was fine to share, so that it's P.O. Box. I would never share it if it was a house address either, right? But it's P.O. Box 871, and that's Coaldale, spelled Coaldale, Alberta. And then the postal code that you need to use is T as in Tom, 1, M as in Mary, space 1, M as in Mary, 7. So again, that's T1M, 1M7. P.O. Box 871, Coaldale, Alberta. He does not read. So, he loves shiny things, and he loves pictures, and he is trying to respond, bless his heart, to each one of the things. I would tell you, don't count on responses, because that might take him 10 years. So
he loves Christmas too. Christmas, swimming, and snow.
Yes. So you can maybe send him have one of your kiddos draw him. No, it's in Canada. People are asking if it's in the UK. It's in Canada. So have one of your kiddos just draw him a picture and pop it in an envelope, and you'll make his day. And then who knows, maybe eventually at some point your kiddo might get a picture back from him, which is kind of lovely, right? I wish we had more of that happening in the world, but I love that his mom spoke up and said, and that he's just over the moon and happy to do his walk again. Why? because that's what's reinforcing to him, getting mail. So absolutely wonderful. I just love it. Okay, we have one more story, and I thought of you, Nancy. I just thought this was so luscious. For the first time in the 49-year history of the triathlon, there is a wonderful, talented athlete who happens to have Down syndrome who has completed the triathlete. And
not only completed a triathlon, because there's a distinction here, he's done the Ironman triathlon, which is the big daddy of all the triathlons. I used to do the international distance triathlons when I was a lot younger. And let me tell you, those were hard. But this one is swimming for 2.4 miles, cycling for 112 miles, and then a full 26.2 mile marathon. Amazing.
Absolutely amazing. And I love, there's a great picture of him in all the social media where he's standing there and he looks like an Iron Man. And at least one of the posts that I saw said, this is for every parent who has ever experienced that moment where you sat across the table and heard for the first time that your child has Down syndrome. And you were, and the first things that came to your mouth, to your mind were all the things that they may not be able to do. I want this picture to be in your head as you think about this. And that, I don't know, that just filled me with so much hope and excitement and love, because I love when we look at what our kids can do instead of what they might not be able to do. And I know that Down syndrome is something that's very near and dear to your heart.
Yes, I had a brother with Down syndrome.
Yeah. So I love that. You want Carson's address again? Yes. Let me find it for you because pardon the paper shuffling. Okay, you ready? So it's Carson Swayze, and he spells it Swazey, and it's P.O. Box 871, Coaldale. And so it's all one word, Coaldale, Alberta. And that is Canada. And the postal code is T as in Tom, 1, M as in Mary. Then there's a space, 1, M as in Mary again, and the number 7. So P.O. Box 871, Coaldale, Alberta, T1M 1M7. And again, we're only giving that out because Mom said on Facebook that anybody could share. So please send only nice things. I'm losing my earbuds. He does not read, so you don't need to send big long letters. Send him a picture. He likes shiny things. He likes Christmas and snow. So I'm suggesting anybody who wants to have your kiddo draw a picture and send it to him. And we've seen pictures that he's just loving getting the mail. Everybody needs the reinforcer. Yes. Okay. So I gotta say, we're really excited to welcome back to the show wonderful guest that we've had before. Kristyn Roth is joining us. She is the chief media officer, I believe is what her title is. We're going to
marketing officer. She's the
marketing
chief marketing officer.
And she's stunningly beautiful, as you can see. So, Kristyn, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Kristyn.
Thank you for having me. It's so good to see you both.
So good to have you here.
Let's start with, what is your title, since I just slaughtered and murdered it?
It's Chief Marketing Officer.
Okay, and what does that mean?
So I oversee marketing and communication efforts for Autism Society of America and also support our affiliate network.
And this is just one of many things that you have done. You've been very involved in the autism community. Can you take just a second and talk about why this is important to you?
Sure. So my younger brother is autistic. And so I've grown up in this space, always being a volunteer or in some of the nonprofit programs that we grew up doing together. And as I got older, I just always wanted to give back in some capacity. So I started my own nonprofit called Make Waves, which focuses on supporting adults with autism and primarily focuses on replicable housing and employment solutions.
Wow,
And
that's a great cause. What a great
Yes.
cause
Thank
that
you.
is. Well,
Thank you. And from there, I was able to connect with some of the other larger nonprofits in the space and through events and networking. And I joined the national board of the Autism Society of America in 2016. And about a year and a half ago, I made the jump to come in-house. So I was on the national board for about 2 years before I took this role and joined the team at the national office.
I always say that I think that siblings of individuals who are differently abled end up being the most amazing people on the face of the earth. And look, I'm sitting with two of them. For those of you who have kiddos, multiple kiddos, and sometimes you're feeling like, okay, a lot of my attention is going to one who maybe needs a little bit extra, and you're worried about the others. I think, it's good to worry about the others, and maybe later you guys can talk about things that they can do to help the neurotypical siblings. But I just want to point out that the neurotypical siblings, look at how great they turn out, because you're looking at two of them right there. So, and thank you for being good examples of that, ladies. And they end up being beautiful too, because look at it just so happens that that's true too. But okay, so we wanted to have you on today. It's been I think a little over a year since we've had you on, and a lot has changed, most especially COVID. People are out there dealing with a lot of different issues. And I know that Autism Society of America has been responsive. Talk a little to us about, and hopefully are you hearing us okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So talk to us a little bit about COVID and what you're hearing and seeing and what Autism Society of America is up to.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's obviously been a wild, 9 months now?
yeah.
So I'm incredibly proud of our response efforts at Autism Society. We were actually the first national autism organization to really respond to COVID-19 in a truly comprehensive way. By March 20th, we actually launched a digital online toolkit that provides information and resources by topic for the autism community. And since that launch, that's been accessed over 125,000 times. From there, we've really expanded our efforts. Some of the earlier ones, we were lucky to collaborate with Make Waves, and we received a donation for 53,000 masks for our entire network to distribute to direct support professionals and residents in group homes. So we did that very early on in the pandemic so that we were getting PPE equipment to really the hardest hit areas when DSP workers weren't being considered essential workers at that time. So that was one of the things we kept hearing over and over, and we were trying to figure out how to support that part of our community. And then again, we really wanted to create a sense of community during this time. So we have, like many organizations, turned to the virtual world to unite everybody, and we launched our coronavirus information series. And that is a bi-weekly series that interviews self-advocates and autism experts or people in the service industry to really share various topics and are just meant to give advice and relatable experience during this time. So we've had about 27 episodes and almost 170,000 views, which is insane just to see the growth there and know that we've created something when feeling isolated and alone is such an unfortunate byproduct of what's happening right now.
So where can we find these, Kristyn? Let's start with the guide. Where can people go to find that?
Yeah, so you can find our toolkit and also social stories, which we've developed for using plain language and visual cues to help explain a lot of the scenarios happening. You can access that at covid19.autism-society.org. If you can't remember that whole thing, you can also just go straight to our website, autism-society.org. And then our coronavirus information series is streamed live on our Facebook channel. So you can head over to facebook.com/Autism Society.
Okay. And then for the, what did you call them again? You're doing basically podcasts, right? But what do you call
video? Yeah, like live stream video interviews.
So where can we find those?
On Facebook. And we make announcements across our social media channels to let people know when those are going out and who's going to be joining. And again, that's on a bi-weekly basis. So you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and get all that information.
And your Autism Society of America on Facebook?
Just Autism Society. Yeah, facebook.com/Autism Society.
Okay, wonderful. Those are great resources. And if people have questions about, any kind of resource, best place to do is go to your website.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we have social stories and things listed by topic, but if people aren't finding what they're looking for, we also have our national helpline with specialists available to speak to people with specific questions.
Okay. Now it's a very interesting time of year. This time of year, we're coming up on Thanksgiving, and a lot of people look at the month of November as a time of gratitude and thanks. And there's I don't know who invented it, but there's practically a new holiday, and it's called what is it? It's called Giving Tuesday, right?
Giving Tuesday. That's right.
Okay. So talk to us a little bit about that and what you guys are doing at Autism Society of America. And I know it's a great thing, but it's a space that now is filled. Everybody wants everybody's dollars then, but give us the pitch about why people should be giving to Autism Society of America this Giving Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you know, COVID really hit at the beginning of March, right, leading up to National Autism Awareness Month. So in the span of a week, we had over 350 events and programs canceled. And that's, for many of our affiliates, our largest fundraising month of the year. So it's been a challenge from that standpoint to navigate through all of the ongoing societal issues and the pandemic that's happening. And Giving Tuesday really gives us an opportunity to try to shine a light back on these really amazing causes that need our support right now. This Giving Tuesday, the Autism Society has launched our second annual Spectrum of Opportunity campaign. Last year was the first time we launched that. And it's really meant to encourage people to help us create a spectrum of opportunity for the autism community to lead quality supported lives during this ongoing pandemic. So any gifts that we receive, all of these funds are going to be used to help support the efforts that I just mentioned, some of those examples in resource development, information and referral supports, advocacy efforts, which our team has been working tirelessly to make sure the autism community is included in relief bills, and really to just better support anyone affected by autism during this time.
Yeah, great. And so we've got the website up on the screen there, spectrumofopportunity.org. And I think that's a wonderful place for people to give their dollars. There is no amount that they can give that's too small. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Big or small, it all matters.
Okay. And tell us about, when is Giving Tuesday for anybody who doesn't know, who hasn't heard?
Giving Tuesday this year is December 1st. But we always encourage people, don't wait until December 1st. You can get involved now. You can host your own fundraiser on Facebook or a peer-to-peer option. You can opt out of Black Friday, opt into Giving Tuesday. And like you said, any amount makes a difference.
Now, the last thing that we need to make sure that we talk about, I didn't even know this. You wrote to me about this and I was like, huh, what, where? That there is a caregiver support month. Nancy, did you know that there was a month
No,
set aside for
I did
caregiver
not.
awareness and
I
support?
did not, but it's a wonderful idea.
Kristyn, did you invent this?
No, I wish I could take credit for that, but it's National Caregivers Month is a huge focus for us at National, and also our. Oh,
Is it November or is it December?
it's November.
So we're in the middle of it and we didn't even know, Nancy.
Yeah.
This is shocking. I think sometimes caregivers are too busy to know, but what a wonderful thing that there's a month of awareness for that. And how are you celebrating that at Autism Society of America?
I mean, it's just a great opportunity for us to recognize and celebrate all the caregivers that wear so many different hats day in, day out. And it's a reminder for our caregivers that self-care isn't selfish and that they need to take the time to take care of themselves with some respite and take the time to relax if possible. So while we appreciate our caregivers every single day, it's just an actual dedicated month to say thank you and show our appreciation.
That's
I love
great.
that.
Great
I-
idea. And
Go ahead, Nancy.
what is some of the feedback you've gotten from caregivers during this time of the pandemic?
I mean, I'm sure you're hearing the same things I am. It's been incredibly difficult. The added challenges that the autism community is facing is really hard. There's no other way to put it. A lot of caregivers have said that finding respite and service support when people can't enter the home or there's program interruptions. And then you add on top of that, if a caregiver is working from home and doing at-home learning, I mean, there's just so many layers that have to be considered throughout the day. And taking the time to acknowledge that, yes, that is really hard and we appreciate you, I hope is at least an acknowledgement that they're doing an amazing job and doing the best they can.
Yeah, we want to support them in every way we can.
I keep hearing from folks that it's, it used to be that it was built into everybody's day that there was just a built-in break, like even if it was 15 minutes where a caregiver got that much time to themselves, and that now with COVID, and I think everyone can relate to this, right? That it seems like there is no time when a caregiver gets to be alone. Right. I saw a caregiver on Facebook the other day wrote in and said, I'm so popular. I'm in constant demand. I need to be everywhere, and I don't have 2 minutes to myself. And and everybody was writing in going, oh my gosh, this is so much the truth. I, of course, had to make a funny comment and said, put on a Hallmark Christmas movie because everybody scatters when you put one on. And that's my way of getting time to myself. I put on a Hallmark Christmas movie, everybody leaves. But it's rough as I'm talking to some of these parents and caregivers, finding even 10 minutes, even, it used to be that we would say to people, if nothing else, when you go to take your child to one of their services and you put them in the car, and once you've gotten everybody safely strapped into whatever seatbelt or car seat or whatever they're in, take 3 seconds when you get behind the wheel and take 3 breaths. But a lot of times people aren't even going anywhere.
As evidence of that, we've got some parents actually writing in right now saying, break, what is that word?
Yeah. Exactly. And saying being a sole caregiver is hard with minimal support through the state. Yeah. I think it's, and so somebody said, yes, it's not the little, it's our pets. I have seen that too. We now have 2 dogs. And I was saying yesterday, just everybody stopped. Anytime I would go from one room to the next, it's like I'm the Pied Piper. The dogs go with me. And I'm like, guys, you don't have to go with me every time I go. Can I just walk from one room to the next without you coming with me. So it's everything. It is not even just our kids. It's absolutely everything coming at us. But this is hard. And so I think having a month where we at least have awareness of it is great. But we're also asking parents to write in if you've got ideas so that somebody can take a break. If you've got something that's particularly wonderful. I have to, I love somebody asked for Carson Swayze's address again, and thank you, Kirsten. One of our viewers wrote it in. It's on Facebook right now, you guys, so take a look there. What did you want to say, Kristyn?
Yeah, I would also add that, our affiliate network has done an incredible job of doing that transition into virtual programming. So we, last year, for example, we had 38,000 people around there attend our support groups. And that's caregivers, parents, people with autism, adults with autism, every kind of group there is. But I would definitely encourage people to also find out if the Autism Society affiliate in their area offers an online support group. I know Central Virginia, for example, Autism Society of Central Virginia, in the first month of the pandemic, quickly got everything over online and had 1,100 people participate in their online programming in that first month in April. So it's very much needed. And I know that we're working hard to make that safe space, that community feel, even when we can't do it in person together. So if anyone does want to find support from that aspect as an opportunity to relate, vent, connect, whatever that need is, definitely head over to our website and we can get that information available to whatever you need.
Wonderful. And since I've got the two of you here, I'm gonna be terrible and take advantage of it, and ask you both, because there are a lot of people that wrote in earlier and said, that they have siblings that are quote unquote neurotypical. Is a hard thing for a parent, and I wondered if both of you could just share even one thing that made a difference for you when you were growing up with a sibling that was facing other challenges. What helped you that your parents may have done or that someone else did? What was good for you?
Kristyn, do you have something to respond to that?
So I think it's not specific, it's more generalized, but I just grew up in such an open home that inclusion was just built into my mindset from an early age. So, I grew up in the early 90s and autism wasn't really used a lot in everyday language. So I grew up thinking my brother had special needs, and that was kind of the terminology I used, but it was never discussed as a negative, and we just addressed every challenge or issue as a family. So I grew up in a very kind of close-knit, inclusive family unit, and I'm incredibly fortunate. So I do always just say there's no right or wrong experience as a sibling. My experience could be very different from the next person, and that's okay. But I valued that my parents really made kind of normalized everything and had that inclusivity in everything that we did. So my brother was always included with my friends and activities and things like that.
I had a very similar experience growing up. David was incorporated into every aspect of our lives. And I didn't really know of Down syndrome as a disability until later. I mean, it was just accepted that he was part of the family and part of the community and did the activities that we all did.
Yeah, what a wonderful, I mean, I can't imagine, I'm sure that there were difficult times for the family, there were difficult times for your brothers, and there were difficult times for you guys, but what a wonderful way of growing up and having that already instilled in you that everyone gets a seat at the table. Because I know what you guys are what you're trying to do in your work and your lives is further that so that everybody does that and says everyone deserves a seat at the table. Well, I just, it's such a thrill always to have you here with us, Kristyn, and we're big fans of the work that you're doing over at Autism Society. It's been such a bummer this year. There have been so many things that we look forward to on a yearly basis that have not happened. I was just remembering the other day, I think the last time that I saw you was at the Aut Fest a year ago in September. And it was just such a lovely, lovely event. And I had that moment. I was like, oh, we're not getting to do this next, but hopefully next year we'll have the opportunity to do that again. There've been so many wonderful things now. I feel like Aut Fest has shined a flashlight in a place where there's so much growth. There are more and more films and television that are featuring individuals on the autism spectrum. And in the last few years, they've been doing it more and more with actors on the autism spectrum. So I can't wait. I hope you do get to do it next year. And I can't wait to see what some of the things will be that you featured. But I loved, if people have not watched last year, one of the things that debuted at your Aut Fest was Everything's Gonna Be Okay. That's on the Freeform network. And it's one of my favorite things. Nancy, have you seen that show?
I have not seen it. I have not seen it.
Oh, I almost like envy you because now you can binge watch the whole first season all at once. And let me just tell you, you need to like get a seatbelt. And I every single episode at some point I find myself going, oh my goodness, they're not going to go there, are they?
It's called Everything's Gonna Be Okay.
Oh, and it's so good, Nancy.
And what channel, again, can I find it on?
So it's on something called Freeform, and you probably have it on your cable provider. So you'll want to check, but you can also watch it. I believe it's on Hulu. And you can watch it on Hulu. But it is shocking and fabulous and remarkable, and sometimes it will singe off your hair. But I will tell you, I'm a better parent for having watched that show.
Wow, that's quite a recommendation.
Yeah, but like fasten your seatbelt because he takes you on a ride. Whoo! And I was so excited to be there and watch. I had seen it a couple of days before because you guys shared it with me, and I couldn't wait to see how the autism audience was going to respond to it. And they loved it. Did they not, Kristyn? They so loved it. It was absolutely amazing. I think it's one of the more fun things I've ever been at live was to watch that audience watch that first episode because it is, get ready. I don't think I've ever seen anything as shocking as it is on television. Am I just like very pedestrian, Kristyn? Or
no, I think they do an amazing job of tackling a variety of different topics. And in the autism realm specifically, they have a neurodiverse cast. They really did their research and they want it to be authentic. And I think they approach that in all of their storylines. So I agree with you. And they've been a fantastic advocate, I think. And same with Kayla Cromer, their lead, who plays a young woman with autism in high school. So, and she's a neurodiverse actress. So it's been fun to follow.
But Nancy, everybody on the show who plays someone on the autism spectrum is portrayed by an actor on the autism spectrum. And some of the staff behind the camera have been people on the autism spectrum as well, not just in a consultancy role, but in other roles as well. They've really done it right. I think that they've changed the trajectory of how Hollywood is going to portray and hire individuals on the autism spectrum. We're pretty excited about it. And I think that Josh Thomas is a genius.
He's the creator, Shannon?
He's the creator and the star, and he's a comedian from Australia that I was not aware of before, but I've never seen anything like him on the face of the planet. And I'm like his biggest fan now. And we've had several of the cast on the show to talk about what the experience is behind scenes. because Nancy, there's some stuff on the show. I mean, they go there. I can't even. And every time, you watch an episode and you go, what? No, maybe they'll get to that in an arc 3 episodes. No, they get to it right there. It's crazy fast the way but I mean, they deal with sex on the autism spectrum, and they deal with a lot of different things. And it's just so honest and fresh. It's crazy good. Crazy, crazy, crazy good. I highly recommend it. But if you're someone who, I don't know, maybe I'm just old. Maybe it's not all that shocking. I don't think so, though. I think it's pretty shocking. I think it's groundbreaking. That's the word I want to say.
Okay, so is it adult fare? It's not for kids then?
Yeah, I would say it's not for kids, but I think if you have a teenager on the autism spectrum, you need to be watching it, and then once you watch it, then see if they're ready for it. But it deals with stuff. Stuff
Okay.
happens, and it's never, you never know which direction it's going to come from, and just when you think you have it figured out, he takes you to another place. I said I'm a better parent for having watched it. And I believe that. So that's about as high praise as I can give.
Sure.
And so thank you to Autism Society of America for showcasing so many wonderful films and TV shows. Again, we miss AutFest and look forward to it coming back next year, hopefully when we're out of all this madness.
Sure.
Anything, and before we let you go, Kristyn, is there anything else you want to share from Autism Society of America?
We covered so much today. I just hope that if anyone's in need of support, specifically for COVID-19 or other issues, please head to our website, autism-society.org. And if you're interested in participating in our Giving Tuesday efforts, you can visit spectrumofopportunity.org to learn more.
Yeah, we want to encourage everybody to give, because these remarkable campaigns couldn't happen without the support of the public, right, Kristyn?
Absolutely. Kristyn, thank you so much, and thank everybody over at Autism Society for us.
Thank you so much. It was great seeing you both. Have a good rest of the day.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. Well, and we didn't expect to be talking about everything's going to be okay, but Nancy, this brings up for me, there are a lot of things that are on television right now. Somebody is asking if we've seen Mimi and Donna on Amazon. I don't even know what that is. Do you know what they're talking about?
I don't either. Not heard about that. I am imagining it's got a character or characters on the autism spectrum, right? Kristyn,
I don't know. Let us know. And
it's on Amazon, she said.
So yeah, we'll have to check that out on Amazon. But I'm not getting out a lot in this pandemic, so we've watched a lot of television. Not a little, but a lot. Have you been watching anything?
I've been watching a lot of different things. I just finished The Queen's Gambit, which is great.
Oh yeah, we love that too.
Highly recommend that. But I have not seen Love on the Spectrum, which everybody is talking about.
It is amazing, and I know Dr. Granpeesheh just recently watched it, and like you can't get her to talk about anything else. She's so in love with it. And so they said that Mimi and Donna is a doc. We'll have to watch that on Amazon. That'll be up next. And so Queen's Gambit, great example. Tell me, when you watched that, did you think that any of the characters were on the autism spectrum?
Yes, I thought some of her fellow chess players, one in particular, was probably on the spectrum.
See, I thought for a hot minute that she was going to be on the spectrum.
Interesting.
There were some signs and symptoms that I thought, this young lady has more of the Asperger end of things. But then ultimately I was like, no, I don't think so. So a very interesting thing. And of course, it's fiction. It's not based in reality. So.
Here's back about the documentary that she recommended. What was the name of it again?
I think it's called Mimi and Donna. Let me look and see.
She said it's about an elderly mother, almost 90 to 100 years old, taking care of her daughter who is on the spectrum and having to put her in a parentheses home. Sounds like a really intriguing topic.
We'll have to take a look at that. Okay. So, and I'm wondering, is there any, did you get a chance to see Lock and Key yet? The first season of Lock and Key?
I have not seen Lock and Key with Kobe Bird.
Yes, and I know that they have already started filming season 2 in Canada, but so I don't know when that'll be. Sometime next year that we'll get to see that. But I really recommend for those of you who have teenagers. Um, I think it's a fun show. It's got some elements of it that are a little bit scary, but it's intended to be for teenagers, and it features Kobe Bird, that we love our Kobe Bird, and someone is saying Lock and Key. My neurotypical son loved it. Yeah, it's we really enjoyed that. I think Wyatt would love that, Nancy. I think he'd get a
Okay,
kick
I'll have to
out of it.
catch that. Yeah. And
And yes,
The Good Doctor is back, is it not?
Good Doctor is back. I haven't seen the new season, but the Good Doctor is back, and I believe that they're going to be tackling COVID because they're in a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I, I had the opportunity to watch the new Grey's Anatomy for the first time last night, and I said to my husband, "Oh, it's just so difficult to watch." I think they're trying to portray what it's like for the health workers with COVID, and it was a lot. I had a really hard time getting through it. I got to be honest, and I like to watch Grey's Anatomy as an escape. And I thought, ooh, there are parts of this that I had not anticipated and
Mm-hmm.
were hard to watch. I can't imagine what it's like for the healthcare workers. And I'd love to hear from a healthcare worker if it's pretty accurate as to what they're going through with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pretty bleak picture, I gotta say. But when you watch television, what do you watch, Nancy?
Um, I'm a big Netflix fan. I watch almost everything there is on Netflix. I love Schitt's Creek. I think it's hilarious. I've watched all the seasons of that.
I just started season 2 of Schitt's Creek, but I've seen we were dying to get it when it was first on, but we didn't get the network that it was on. And then we
Mhm.
started getting the network, I think, in the middle of season 2. So I watched probably the end of season 2 into season 3, but I'd never seen season 1. So now I've got this mishmash of things that that of Schitt's Creek. But and I think I've seen the last one too. Because it was on, and so everybody was talking about it and I watched it. Did you But I'll tell you, Dina Kimmel had said to me years ago to watch Ozark, and
I love Ozark. I
I
can't wait
watched
for
the
the new
first
season.
episode and I just couldn't get into it. And Dina threatened me. Like, she was like, I will come over and kick you in the keister. You've got to watch that show. And eventually in COVID, we watched it, and that was pretty amazing, but a little bit dark.
Yeah,
Did you watch the whole thing?
it's a very dark show, especially the first episode. I was turned off too, but people said stay with it, stick with it, which I did.
Yeah.
And the acting is just superb.
Yeah. And then I think we talked earlier that in the year that you watched Mrs. America, didn't you?
Yes, uh-huh.
And I thoroughly enjoyed that.
I enjoyed that as well.
I thought that that was an amazing thing with so many wonderful actresses. I find myself, it's so funny. We're hearing a lot of things in the news right now about how, and of course, if you watched last year's Oscars, people are talking about inclusion. And it's interesting to me about, like, who thinks what is inclusion. That we just saw the other day that CBS has said that in all of their reality shows that they are going to have 50% of the people be from categories that are considered Black, Asian, Native American, that 50% of the characters basically will be non-Caucasian. It's just
Mm-hmm.
this amazing thing that CBS has come forward and said that they will do that. But of course, I was like, well, are they going to include people who are neurodiverse? Are they going
Mm-hmm.
to include people who are differently abled physically? Like, they didn't say that, but I was like, where I wish that everything on television mirrored society. And
Mm-hmm.
and I know that many people in the community of differently abled have said that that's roughly 20% of the population.
Mm-hmm.
To include all of the different ways that someone can be differently abled, that's 20% of the population. And when we see that characters in films and movies are not yet at 20%,
Right.
and certainly actors who are neurodiverse and have different abilities are not getting 20% of the work that's out there. That's not happening.
Right.
So it's just very interesting. But I'm always looking at things too and going, where are the women in this film? Like, like I can't bear to watch another Martin Scorsese film. I just can't. I mean, I watched the Irishman, and I said after, it's like 3.5 hours long, and at the end of it, I was like, so what your point is that women didn't have a right to speak in the 60s? Like there's like all of the women who play the biggest roles in the film, I think you could add all of their lines together and they probably have less than 100 words.
I think that's true, Shannon.
It made me want to throw up on them. So I guess it's interesting. It depends on which point of view you're at, what inclusion is.
Right.
But at least we're having the conversation. At least we're starting to have the conversation.
And we're starting to see more and more actors that are neurodiverse be represented on the screen. So that's great.
Even in, this is the time of year where I watch Hallmark Christmas movies.
Right.
I unplug from everything. At some point, I want to have like a separate blog that's just about Hallmark Christmas movies because I'm a little bit obsessed. But I am really loving that each year Hallmark does a better job of getting to inclusion. That a few years ago they started making sure that there were gay characters in Hallmark Christmas movies. And I was like, look at Hallmark, look, I'm proud of you. Like, I think that's really good. And now, last year, it was sort of like their thing that they made sure that they had both Christmas and Hanukkah. And I was like, go Hallmark. And this year they are doing a much better job of making sure that the casts are much more diverse in every single way. I'm seeing characters in wheelchairs. I'm seeing characters who are verbally differently abled. I am seeing characters who are of different ethnic backgrounds. I'm seeing every shade of skin in Hallmark movies. I'm happy that Hallmark is moving in that direction. Because wouldn't want to be great when someday it just looks like life. I'll be very excited for that. All right. Well, I have gone on and on and on, verbally vomited on all of you. But we have one more show next week before we get to the Thanksgiving holiday. So a couple of things I want people to know. Next week, we have Vince Redman on the show. And so we'll probably talk about some of the holiday stressors with him.
He's going to be on our show. He's going to be on our show. Okay, great.
Next Friday.
Vince is always great to talk. And this is going to be a holiday like no other. So I think we all need to, get some advice from him on how we can handle the stress of a COVID Thanksgiving and Christmas, because it's going to be different sets of rules.
It is. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that as long as we get with the program, I think it's going to be less stressful.
Okay.
Because
it's smaller for people. It's not as many.
Well, already people are putting out all these things about how to do a smaller Thanksgiving dinner because, usually when we gather with friends and family, for instance, you make the turkey and you make the mashed potatoes and somebody else brings the green bean dish and the pumpkin pie and somebody else brings. And so each person is making 2 or 3 things, but you put it all together and you've got 20 dishes and it's, this crazy meal. But now if it's just going to be you at your house, there are all these plans online for how to make it easier, how to streamline so that you don't have to make all the dishes and maybe the next day you have the green bean dish, and I just think a lot of what happens around the holidays, and we talk about this every year, Nancy, is that we have expectations that we're going to get together with family and it's going to be this mythical holiday that we may or may not have had. It might be something in our dreams or a holiday that we had at some point, and that it's going to be like that. And how often is it?
It's not usually. And then we have, we feel defeated and let down. So perhaps you're right, with smaller expectations, it'll be more manageable and we won't be, our hopes and dreams won't be as deflated as they have in the past.
And you want to spend that time with friends and family, but then, a lot of times friends and family will do or say something that makes it harder for you as the parent of an individual on the autism spectrum.
Right.
Let's just be honest.
I know for
You don't
me, the
have to.
special diet. I know for me, the special diet is always an issue.
Right?
Yeah.
And somebody's got to say something, somebody's got to chime in. And maybe if we don't have to do all that, I plan on having, iPads at the dinner table so that we can be eating with friends and family and having conversation and having that communion. But maybe it'll just be easier. Maybe,
Mhm.
let's see.
Mhm.
But we will miss each other. But I'm finding for me that it's not even a close second, but it helps to do regular Zoom meetings. Like I get to see you every week, Nancy.
Right. It's
in
great.
this way. Yeah.
And you're actually having iPads at the dinner table on Thanksgiving?
Yep. And we're going to connect with different family members. And, we don't have to have the whole meal with them. But,
Mhm.
Normally I don't get to be with my family on Thanksgiving. So I have to call them anyway.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to FaceTime and do whatever and have iPads at the table and say hi to everybody. And, then you don't have to have arguments about, who didn't bring the rolls.
That's a great idea, Shannon.
But we'll have the togetherness as best we can. All right, I'm losing my earbuds and we're past time. Nancy, I adore you.
I adore you too, Shannon. I can't wait for next week to talk about the holiday.
Yeah, we're going to be back on Monday with Bonnie Yates. If you have questions for her, special education attorney, send them in to me now. All right. But thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Nancy. Back on Monday. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And yourselves a hug from me.
Bye-bye for
Bye-bye.
now.
Bye-bye.